It's funny, and so two other components of my like anxiety management is I ground quite a bit. So I head out into nature, and I like as a male, I kind of need to lift things. So instead of going to the gym, I lift rocks. I just go somewhere and lift rocks and carry them. And I find that quite grounding for me because it slows me down. But the other key thing I do is I treat myself once a month or once every 3 weeks and go and get a massage, deep tissue massage. And for me, that's kind of brought into perspective that, okay, well, I get a physical body massage and, that makes me feel really good for a certain amount of time. Obviously, it's a Band-Aid to the cause, but it still gives you that space to feel good. The way I think about the mental component is like, for me, talking and being open and being your authentic self at that very time, just whatever you're feeling, is for me like a mental massage. So for me, that just enables like my brain to let go of the notion that I can just be me at this time. Yeah, be me right now at this time.
That was Richie Laming, and you're listening to The Regenerative Journey.
G'day, I'm your host Charlie Arnott, an 8th generational Australian regenerative farmer. And in this podcast series, I'll be diving deep and exploring my guests' unique perspectives on the world so you can apply their experience and knowledge to cultivate your own transition to a more regenerative way of life.
Welcome to The Regenerative Journey with your host Charlie Arnott.
G'day, welcome back to The Regenerative Journey and welcome to this episode with Richie Laming. Now, Richie is the Experience and Education Manager at Lake Hawea Station on the southern island of New Zealand. I was privileged to be over there a couple of years ago, I think it was 2023, to interview Jeff Ross for The Regenerative Journey. You'll find that in a previous episode of The Regenerative Journey. Jeff and his wife Justine and their team are doing amazing things in the field of regenerative agriculture generally. They've got merino growing some amazing wool and a very active and world-renowned agritourism enterprise on the farm. They've got country right down on the shores of Lake Hawea and it heads up, I think it was 1,000 metres up into the high country. Their use of that high country in different seasons and the low country is a fascinating story in itself. So Richie was actually here at Hanamino last year, and it was May, June last year. He did a couple of weeks here, just seeing what we do. And I sat him down. Actually, it took us a couple of goes. So this interview may sound a little disjointed. I think we had three sessions, just when squeezing it in between other things. So I certainly got my pound of flesh out of Richie while he was here. But a fascinating story about his life and his journey and why he's doing what he's doing there now at Lake Hawea Station and the experience he's had leading up to that, and also the what's in store for him in the future of Lake Hawea Station as well, which is another story in itself. The guys there are doing some amazing things, and I'd definitely check it out. If you're in the southern island of New Zealand at any point down near Queenstown, you must get there and see what those guys are doing. Big shout out to Jeff and Juzzy and the team, and especially Richie for this episode of The Regenerative Journey. Richie Laming, welcome to The Regenerative Journey and welcome to your counselling session here in our guest bedroom, which is that all sounds a bit weird, doesn't it?
Self-appointed, but voluntary. I can say the outlook here, I'm already feeling at ease, Charlie. So.
That might have been something to do with what I dropped in your tea there this morning.
Perhaps. Yeah, fond memories of this pond in front of me, catching yabbies with Lordy a few days ago.
That's right. That was on one of your, a couple of days in. And I haven't done that for a long time. Did you suggest that, or was it Lordy?
I think it was Lordy. Yeah, I think it was his. He's the brainiac.
Yeah. That's a story for another day. He is a brainiac. Yeah, I think he was, I don't know what he was inspired by. I know he was trying to go snorkelling in puddles the other day. He was out and about with his snorkelling gear in his backpack looking for puddles to go snorkelling in. And a dam, that's right, he wanted to snorkel in this dam and then somehow we got onto yabbies. So he put the yabby, they're called, you may know this, the Opera House yabby trap.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's got the
works really effectively, doesn't it? A little clip at the end. So ideally, when you catch yabbies, you can just release them easily. it's a little bit confounded when there's been some yabby homicide going on.
There was a lot of
Yeah,
yabby homicide. We reckon we caught three. Well, we caught three the first time, and then when you checked it that second time, there'd been a bit of death.
Yeah.
There was certainly a scene of the crime was pretty ordinary there. I do remember 12 months or so ago, we have two traps, and we used one of them the other day, and the other one doesn't have the bits of wire that holds the bottom of the funnel in a nice tight hole.
Yeah.
So the yabbies can get in but not get out. The other one has just netting, and so we actually caught a few turtles.
Yeah, right.
And they died. Because it was a couple of days later and they couldn't breathe, obviously, which was a bit sad. It was very sad. So it was a lesson I learned about, quality of yabby traps. But we digress.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's topical because
It is.
you're a man of ecology, which we'll certainly get to.
And I've made plenty of mistakes on the farm growing up as well. And I guess some of those mistakes I made probably led me to be much more empathetic and be aware of the life and the land around us too. So It's interesting. I always wonder whether I would have that same empathetic streak without making a few stuff-ups on the farm too. So yeah, it's an interesting one. People say that some people can be born with empathy. For others, empathy can be honed or developed throughout their life, throughout their experiences too. I think I'd probably be in the latter, knowing I was a little terror as a kid running around on the farm.
And when you say empathy, you mean empathetic to the environment, to ecology, to nature?
I think so. Looking at the environment or looking at our surrounds from the perspective of something else, whether it's biotic living or abiotic from, just the landscape in general. But I think when you are able to take yourself out of your perspective into the perspective of nature, definitely delivers a greater understanding of the surrounds around you. And enables you, I think, to develop empathy.
And there's excuse me, if I cough, it's because I've got some congestion going on. It's interesting, the comparing the concept of empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
Because they're a little bit different, aren't they? I reckon they are.
And what I'm learning now is compassion. As I get older, I want to bring my compassion more to the fore than my empathy, because my empathy, I believe, can sometimes be a double-edged sword. Compassionate's being kind, but also I think protecting your own energy and in the knowledge that the energy and kindness that you have, you're going to bring to a situation without it being affected at the same time, because that is what's going to help, whether it's people, the surrounds, nature, that compassion. But for me, the journey has been starting with empathy, I believe, and that's what probably led me into the career that I'm on at the moment.
And I think I totally agree. And also, my kind of addition from my point of view of compassion is it's actually it's a bit more active. Like empathy's like, that's a pity that happened, or you might feel empathy for something in a situation. Yeah. For me, compassion's like the next step, which is actually the consoling of someone or the helping of someone or the whatever. That's just another sort of layer for me of sort of compassion. Not that I'm terribly good at it. By the way, I'm nobody. And I agree.
That's what makes us unique, Charlie.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's what makes you more compassionate than me.
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, I've received some wonderful hospitality in the last couple of weeks. So that's definitely compassion, I think.
So
some action involved.
Well, just getting back to what you said before about making mistakes on the farm, you haven't made any mistakes. I don't. Not that I'm aware of. Was there anything you've done that I don't know about?
Just yesterday, we sort of cleared that up in the cattle yards, but learning about that stockmanship, working in really close quarters with large cattle where they are animals of consequence, and generally they herd. So if you move one, a lot can move together, and that's a lot of collective weight. So for me, I can be guilty sometimes of having, a reactionary mindset. Well, I'll do this and see what happens. But, and you sometimes have to identify those environments that have consequence and probably take on more of like an engineering perspective. Like, if I do this, what's going to happen? And I think yesterday that was a big learning curve for me. It wasn't a biggie, but I realised that I should have just thought about something a little bit more there.
And not yes. And as I said to you at the time, I said you didn't do anything wrong. It was a bit of a comedy of errors because everyone knows, there's a couple of panels and a gate that that popped out with some cattle yesterday in the yards, and it was as much to do with the fact that strainer post needed to come out. It was wobbly as shit anyway. So,
Like you said, I was doing you a favour.
Yeah, you were, because you actually were. Like, sometimes it's a bit of an analogy, isn't it? Sometimes you have to get to the point of destruction or disturbance to then go and do something about it, which is a bit of a pity. I mean, we should have fixed that a long time ago, but as, farm life, and it's kind of like it just trickles down the bottom of the priority list because it's still there. It still does a job until a bit of pressure is put on it, and away it went. So, was that your only fuck up?
Oh, I think almost burnt the sausages yesterday. And I almost forgot about Lordie's sausage rolls too, and then Lordie had to remind me. So that shows where his intellect is compared to mine.
Were they in the oven?
Yeah, they were in the oven.
Oh, he's a classic.
Yeah. I did step in catch it actually in the smoko room the other day too. So
up here?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that would be Moo. She must have got stuck in there.
Yeah, I think she did.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
But no, the rental car's still in one piece. So
yeah, that's good.
I haven't got a great track record with rental cars. So I've only got 3 days to go. So hopefully I can fulfill a clean record there.
You do have to get back to Melbourne, though.
I do. Yeah.
It's a bit of a 7-hour trip from here on the Sunday. Let's get back on track a bit. Not to say we shouldn't go off on tangents. I love it. And they're always the best interviews when you start with whatever happens. I did one with Scott Gooding a couple of years ago, and I had my plan, and then the door across to our right, as it were, at his place at Whale Beach, it either shut or opened with no one there, and we then went on a rant about ghosts.
I've had a couple of ghostly experiences. Yeah.
Here? No.
Not here. No, but interestingly enough, I thought the other day when I came in for a cup of tea, I think it was 1 or 2 in the morning, I just started thinking about ghosts in your house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, how old is this house?
Oh, the middle of it's probably 1950s, but it's hard to tell what that even is now.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because that camera's not focusing. See there, maybe we're a bit far away. See how you're a bit out of focus. So if I sit here, maybe it does. Do you reckon you're a bit more out of focus than me?
I just move over slightly.
Yeah, go on, cut it. Don't. If you're feeling uncomfortable, just let me know.
That's cool.
You look a bit more out of focus than I do.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's weird. So back to the question, or your reference there to ghosts and things. We had 3 weeks ago. I don't know if I told you this. 3 weeks ago, we had Gary McDougall and Kim Kiss, who are part of a new entity, a not-for-profit called Subtle Energy Quantum Leap, Subtle Energy Quantum Leap Limited, and they're not-for-profit, and it's a sort of it's the next chapter in the work of Dr. Patrick McManaway, who is an amazing guy that RCS Australia brought out to Australia. Gee whiz, in I think 2015 might have been the first time they brought him out, or 2014. And he is an amazing guy who is we're on another tangent, but let's stick with it. He's another amazing guy who did work with subtle energy. He's teaching heaps of Australians. Anyway, long story short, Kim and Gary represent this new entity of subtle energy practitioners and geomancy practitioners, and they were here, and they stayed at Little Plains, and they did a bit of a correction on the landscape, and they did some corrections in the house.
Right.
Corrections being realigning and balancing energies, man-made and natural. And they did sort some stuff out in the house.
So is that like a Reiki that goes? It's more of an all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive Reiki out into the landscape.
Yeah. But the principles apply certainly for humans. So balancing and correction of human.
Do they do work on you specifically, or is it more on?
Not this time.
Yeah.
Linda McDougall, Gary's wife, did some work on Lilla. We've been doing this sort of stuff for many years and getting fixed ourselves and that sort of thing. It uses a bit of kinesiology. Conscious that we're talking about things that aren't about you. Okay. But then did you see anything when you came in that night?
No, I didn't. No, and sometimes you think, is this intuition or am I just putting ideas in my head? But it's all very relevant to me. I attend Reiki practitioner. I'm a huge believer in energy, and I have had ghostly encounters as well.
You have?
Not many, but there's been a couple. Yeah.
Well, Well, tell us.
Yeah, probably the
So this
first.
is about you. So that's the main thing.
I was at my brother's, so my sister-in-law's, who's married to my brother, of course, and at that time in my life, I was a very deep sleeper, and usually I'd just nod off about 11 o'clock at night and wouldn't wake up until 6 o'clock in the morning.
How long ago is this?
This was 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I was in the old part of the house, similar setup to this house just here. And I woke up very spontaneously at 1 o'clock in the morning, and my heart rate was just elevated. And I looked over into the corner of the room, and there's like a black haze just sitting there in the corner of the room. And I had the sense at the time to look elsewhere and just like adjust my vision. And I looked back, and the black haze was still there, but it wasn't elsewhere in the room. And then that black haze started to fade. And that was a lot to swallow at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I was up for about half an hour. And then I sort of came to the conclusion, I was like, well, if I wanted to do something, it probably would have done it by now. Not that I felt that it was benevolent, but I didn't think it was malevolent.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but that was it was a very interesting experience, and something I can still see very clearly in my mind right now.
And that was in New Zealand?
That was in New Zealand.
In an old house?
In an older section of like an Auckland house, but an older section of that house too.
Well,
I didn't. This is the first time I've actually talked about it. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is the place to do it because of this. Not that we had a whole lot of spooky wah-wahs in this house, but look, there wouldn't be any structure. I don't know. I wouldn't want to even say give it a time frame like a number of years, but structures where people inhabit for any period of time generally take on residual energies of those people, especially if there's conflict between people. Like there could be living people who have a row, and the residuals can stay in that room. And
it's almost like the energy hasn't been resolved, or
yes,
is it stored in? Is it emotion? Is that?
Yeah. So it's my understanding is it's the root of it is the emotions that happen at the time.
Okay.
And the energies of that interaction, conflict, stay reverberating, resonating in this space. Now, I think in this room, and then Gary said, in this room, 15, 16 years ago, something happened.
Right.
And he fixed it up the other day.
He didn't elaborate on any detail. He just said
no.
there was an energy misalignment.
Yeah, and you don't have. Sometimes they do. The practitioners do have to find the root source, which may go back some generations. Can even 7 generations is generally the time frame for which energies can stick around in a place. And he sorted that out. And sometimes, he doesn't have to find out, but sometimes he does. And sometimes he doesn't have permission to tell anyone else, but he always seeks permission to do something with it. And he got rid of someone over in the shed over there.
Right.
70 years ago, a very mean man did some awful things to animals and people.
Yeah.
And he picked that up, and that's something that Tessa had picked up as well.
Yeah.
And he got rid of that.
Gee. It makes you wonder, I guess, because you hear more about intergenerational trauma these days, and is that trauma that's passed down through the bloodline, or is it passed down via environments?
Both.
Yeah, okay.
So you can have, and the Dawson program is something that Gary is a practitioner in, and quite a few other people in. It's interesting. The regenerative farming space seems to be the tribe in which these sort of, in case in point, subtle energies are of interest to people because they're generally, dare I say, a bit more open-minded. So. So in the Dawson program, which is it's a series of courses that you learn to be a practitioner, that Ange and I did many years ago, they talk about intergenerational trauma and how that is definitely passed on.
Yeah.
And then I think it's after 3 generations of trauma that sits in as an epigenetic continuation, it actually becomes genetic. Wow. It goes beyond the influence of environment, actually becomes a genetic blueprint in your body. So
the nature becomes, the nurture becomes the nature.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And that could, so in the program, you can go back 7 generations. You might have to go back 7 generations to start correcting someone's great-great-grandfather of a trauma they experienced all those years ago, to then relieve you of the intergenerational trauma that you're carrying.
Because you don't want to pass that on to the next generation.
Totally
ideally.
not. Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I won't disclose what goes on in the Reiki sessions I have, but there's definitely these kind of things are talked about as well. Not specifically for me, but it just makes you a lot more aware, especially when you feel energy too.
Oh, totally. And we've lost the we generally have lost the muscle, the strength in our muscles of intuition, of which picking up subtle energies is one of the kind of the layers of intuition.
Yeah.
And practicing dowsing and geomancy and that sort of thing strengthens that muscle. And I am by no means strong in that department. I'm aware, and I'm probably weak, but I'm at least sort of I carry a pendulum in my pocket all the time. Lilla she's great. She just picks it up. She goes, "Oh, can I borrow your pendulum?" Actually, she got her own one the other day, and she'll just work out what's happening with the horses and whether she should work them today or give them a feed or whatever else. It's fascinating,
Isn't
and at that
awesome?
age, at 13, yeah, it's really cool. And not cool. It's just kind of setting up for, and it's never too late, of course, And so I don't know if there's any Dawson practitioners in New Zealand. It'd be interesting to find that out, actually.
Yeah.
And there's probably different versions of a similar thing. Reiki definitely. Kinesiology is the mode for the protocol of you go to a doctor and they work out what's going on. Diagnosis. Thank you. Diagnosis of using kinesiology, and it's fascinating where that can lead.
Yeah, it's great because my practitioner, she's actually a radiographer. She comes from a medical background, but then she's moved into, dare I say again, more alternative approach to ailments and health. And it's great talking to her because she can cover things from all perspectives. And I guess ideally, the medical aspects, the anatomical, the energy, everything is going to be related. It's nice to have that holistic perspective.
And, I guess the blessing is that, again, in the regen ag space and similar sort of spaces, you are exposed to these sort of things. So one is given the opportunity to do an awesome program, see a practitioner. Reiki is probably a better known modality in a similar sphere because it's human related, and you don't have to be sort of a farmer or a landscape steward to know about Reiki. Reiki's a human based kind of thing, but again, in using Reiki, there's probably correction of potentially environmental based influences and energies that have fuck someone up.
I think so. Yeah, but at the same time, it's funny because I have anxiety, and I guess we again.
You seem like a pretty chill kind of guy.
Diverging, yes, but I have my modes to shift the energy within my body, which I'm slowly learning.
How do you? Can you divulge that? Or are they?
Yeah, no, it's quite funny. Some of them are self-discovered.
This section's just going to be
we can just trim. We can trim this later on. For me, omming's a big one, so I'm really trying to produce a sound within. Where I feel my anxiety is trapped is in my chest. I know for a lot of people, when they're stressed, they might get cramps. Stressed, they might get a sore back or a migraine. For me, I get a tightness over my chest. And I now can acknowledge that, right, that's energy. And for me, what I'm beginning to understand now is that's a positive thing. I've got energy. And if I move that energy, then I can transform that energy. But the beginnings for me at the moment are just moving that energy. If I can start to transform it over time through manifestation and things like that, then I'm really excited to see where that goes. But currently I'm working on just moving the energy around, aware of where it is in my body. Omming, I do, it's quite funny. You've seen The Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, when
in the restaurant.
When Leo's giving it that one. Yeah. But that for me, if I'm talking and I can actually feel when I'm stressed, I can feel the energy. I don't know whether it's just a fiction of my mind, but I can feel the energy being spread, and it's no longer trapped just there. Because I did see a healer at the start of the year, and she said, "Look, everywhere over your heart, everywhere up here is fine, but there's a constriction kind of around your solar plexus. And that's exactly where I feel, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm super stressed, that's exactly where I feel it. And now it's just kind of flipping that paradigm and thinking, okay, well, this is energy. Like, this is good. You can move energy and you can transform energy. But that comes with, I guess, more understanding too. And that I'm not quite there yet. I'll never be quite there. But it's exciting too, because the anxiety can definitely knock you around. That's for sure.
What's the gland just here? It's you got your thyroid.
Thyroid.
Your thyroid. So there's a thing in the Dawson program again, where exactly what you're doing, tapping your thyroid, because it's such a critical controller of hormones and dare I say energy and so on, that in tapping, I often do it subconsciously when I'm kind of feeling a little stressed. I'll just do that, and it's one of those things. I guess it's now, as I said, an unconscious thing.
Yeah.
And I don't go, oh my God, I feel so much better straight away. But it's just a thing. It's almost like just a practice. It's a habit, which then triggers a response, some subtly, which seems to then help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you don't know whether it's your mind focusing on that and not focusing on the symptoms, or if it's actually a direct treatment of that certain area. But when I wake up in the middle of the night, I tap. So and I'll quite often it can be, and I'll just do that until I fall asleep again. And it's pretty powerful. It definitely works for me anyway.
I saw you picked up that book there, Stop Worrying and Start Living. Carnegie.
Yeah,
it's great. I bought that years ago in, God knows, a bookstore. I don't even know where it was, but it's an old copy. It's from 1980 something.
Yeah,
never been read. It was brand new at the time, so I think I'm the first reader there, and I've been.
The thing I love is it's highlighted, so when I go in, I can go straight.
You can go straight to the core. I've done that for you. But the thing is, it's such a simple. It's an old book. I mean, that was just the copy I had. It was written in something like 1939 or something. It's not, and there's the way it references everything. It's classic, but it's good yarns.
Yeah,
and it's basic. It's basic strategies. What to do, and I'm only sort of not even halfway through. But I was like, this stuff has been around for a long time, and he's just collected lots of stories and applied it and put it into a book. And a lot of it's really simple, and I think it's helping. I don't go to the finish of a chapter and then do the exercise and sit there and do it. I kind of it's just that absorbing of it, integrating it somehow.
I love that. Some of those, I know where you're coming from. Some of those old school perspectives, that it's not overcomplicated purely because they're not fully aware of everything that's going on at a micro level yet, but they just give you very simple sentences, and with your knowledge you can integrate that. That's what I picked up just before reading a few snippets.
Out of that one?
Yeah.
It's a cracker. And it's like, you buy a book at some point and you may not get to it for years, but it rises to the surface at the right time, Because my sleep's not been very good recently. I got up last night because I thought of something. I was thinking at night. The night before I actually slept the best than I had in months, but last night I woke up thinking, oh God, I need to email my accountant about some reforecasting in the budget. And I got up and set one, and I must have been in a blur, because when I woke up this morning I said, no, that's not right. I've told her the wrong thing. And then she emailed back saying, I'm very concerned that you're emailing at this time of night, and then she said, oh, but I'm, it's the pot calling the kettle black. That's quite funny.
Yeah, I was going to comment on your Instagram post at 2:00 the other 2 o'clock the morning when I was up too, but I thought, I better.
And I generally, I don't, when I do get up, it's to read, and very rare, like last night getting on an email was the first time in months and months in the middle of the night. I just generally don't do that. I just read and try and slow myself down again, and then I had a sleepy time tea. Last night, and I actually slept quite well till Lordy jumped in the bed at 6 o'clock.
There's far.
Now let's get back on track.
A bit of rain on the way this evening, though, Charlie. Looking out the window.
Yeah, apparently. we're scanning tomorrow. Scanning news tomorrow, and so it'd be nice not to have the rain. I won't ever complain about the rain, but it'd be nice not to have it, just so we can get that job done. That too much hoo-ha, because then we have to do some drafting and some scanning and that sort of thing. However, you and I are going to be at a biodynamics workshop tomorrow.
I know.
So you skived out of that pretty well, didn't you?
And I deliberately haven't researched kind of anything on biodynamics because I wanted to come in from a very fresh perspective as well. So, I'm quite excited. I'm very excited in the knowledge tomorrow that there's going to be some new neural synapses going on in my brain, I think.
I think now that we've had some, many days together here, and just for those who haven't picked that up, Richie arrived here, 10 days ago?
Yeah.
10 days, 11 days ago, for a 2-week sort of a stint. And we'll get back to your life and Lake Hawea Station there very soon. But given the time you spent, and even this conversation we just had, I think you'll love it.
Yeah.
Because it really touches on, as I say to people, it's not just about growing a better carrot and a better cow, farm food. It's as much about your individuality and your place in nature and your engagement or relationship with nature and the practices. And, we, as I always say, but keep reiterating for a good reason, Hamish is a master at taking you to the end of the cosmos with some pretty crazy ideas and then bringing you firmly back to Earth with an anecdote or a story or something. Like he's a legend like that. He can just, and so discerning and so level in his approach to all of that. And I got to say, he does speak with some authority, a lot of authority, and that's not in a wanky way. It's just that he just absorbs stuff.
Yeah, he's knowing. Yeah, I'm particularly excited there because I work as an astronomy guide with Lake Hawea Station too. So we're always working on our storytelling capability because we might only have guests for 3 or 4 days, and we're thinking, okay, what is the best way we can provide them with this information? Generally, it's through a story and finding an alignment between all the experiences and the things they do on the property and the direction of the property too. So with our astronomy, we often talk, and this is knowledge that was given to me by some Māori elders in New Zealand about Papatuanuku, who is Mother Earth, and then Ranganui, who is Sky Father. And basically, if you think about regeneration, Papatuanuku is regeneration. So the soil holds the health, and that is where all things flow from. But where does the energy come from for that biology? It comes from outer space. So Ranganui, Sky Father, has a massive role to play in regeneration from our perspective at Lake Hawea Station. And even that, like, people come to a regenerative farm and think, cool, soil health. And we're like, whoa, it goes even further back than that. It comes from above first. So the knowledge that, what we're made up of, if it's carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, all those little elements are floating up in there in space. And somehow they've made their way through some miracle, probably some knowledge that I don't have, to here and be transformed from the abiotic into the biotic to the living. And that's pretty special, I always find.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you've usually got guests on the front foot. We've got a beautiful. Did you go to the viewing platform?
We did. It was actually being built.
Yeah.
Oh, mate was up there, the chippy.
Dan.
Putting that together.
Yeah, he did an amazing job. Central Lakes Decking. Dan from Queenstown. He's the ultimate yes man and problem solver.
Yeah,
because
that's what you like.
Yeah, we gave him quite a ambitious design, a crescent moon shaped platform. But yeah, the finishing product is amazing,
and the view up there.
Yeah,
that's where it is. You mentioned the other day about water. You want to mention that?
Yeah, so that's something we talk to guests about. Are you talking about where waters come from as well? Yeah, I've been reading this book by Stephen Hawking, who I think is quite a credible source.
Which one?
Stephen Hawking. Actually, I'll get the name for you. It's maybe even if I research it. It's got the universe in its name anyway.
Yeah.
But it's written with his daughter, so the best thing is it's kind of in layman's language.
Yep.
And what he was talking about in this book, that all the water that exists here on Earth right now is all the water that's ever been. And that water, he believes, or they believe, has come from outer space.
I guess hydrogen and oxygen.
Yeah.
The sort that was those elements out there.
I'm not sure whether it came in elemental form, or actually came as the liquid, whether it was ice, whether it was water vapor, water.
Could have been hydrogen and oxygen and something else.
Yeah.
Carbon? No, who knows?
Yeah, but anyway, the cool thing is now it's here on Earth. Any living organism has come into contact with that water. So they say that if you drink a cup of water, it's very likely that, or not likely, but it's a possibility that some of those molecules of water have actually passed through a Tyrannosaurus rex. or
That's cool, isn't it?
another pretty cool animal from millions and millions of years ago. And kind of, I always think, and this is just wonder, by the way, disclaimer, I think, there's a big discussion about water holding memory now. And, what is contained in this water if it's passed through? If our cells are 70% water, what is contained in this water still from millions of years ago? Are we still having information transferred to us from that time, or has that water been cleansed over time too? That's pure wonder.
Well, I know it's a really good point because water is a storage of has memory, and it's the ultimate hard drive.
Yeah.
And there's some great work done by, I always forget his name, I think he's a Japanese chappie. Is it Emoto? And have you seen those ones? And he does the water in a jar, and he puts a word love and he puts a word hate on two separate jars, and then he'll analyse the water, the particles. He'll then freeze it. He'll freeze the water, and then so for instance, the jar with the word love on it is imbued with love, and the crystalline structure is just beautiful, like snowflakey kind of amazing things. And then when he analyses the one that says hate on it, it's like a horrible, ugly sort of.
I had heard of this. Yeah.
And it's also, and then the other interesting thing is there's a third part to that. And I think I'm right in saying when you do another jar and you put the word, it's not hate, you put the word isolated. No, it's not the word isolated. Someone's going to pick me up on this one. There's a word like when you are neglected. It might be the word neglected.
Okay.
When you're neglected, that's actually a worse looking crystal than hate.
Than hate?
Yeah. So
right.
and Zach Bush would talk to this very freely, I'm sure, we are social creatures.
Yeah.
And isolation is one of the biggest killers physically and mentally and spiritually. And that cancer is essentially at a biological level an isolated cell or collection of cells.
It has this sense of abandonment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that generally, in my view, and I think his and, some doctors, not many, but kind of our style of doctors would agree in that, that is a mental construct. I'm not to say that people, look, you're not isolated, you'll be right, but just that feeling and that sense of isolation has something to do with the creation of disease and how we deal with it.
Right. And so Zach was saying himself that that's a mental construct? Or?
Well, I don't know if that's a word he would use, but in terms of how one feels, and even in that book, right?
I think it's definitely consistent because he talks a lot, and I was lucky enough to spend a few days with him. He talks a lot about human beings being the creator of their own experiences. And he said something very poignant we were, about 10 of us were having dinner. This was at a retreat we had at Lake Hawea Station, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about shortly. But he said, the original wound is kind of that separation from nature and not being seen by nature. And we all have those moments. For me, it's often, whether it's in New Zealand, walking through some beautiful beach forest with a waterfall cascading nearby, in Australia, just walking through pockets of bush, I feel like I'm seen. Like I feel like I'm being watched in the best possible way. And that's like a sense of fulfillment. I wouldn't say it's happiness or joy or anything like that, but I just feel at ease because I feel like I'm being seen as I just wander through.
I think we should get to you. We've just gone on so many tangents. It's not a tree, it's a shrub.
Yeah,
we've gone.
I read the stars last night, Charlie, and it was written in the stars that the first half hour.
We're just going to ramble on.
Yeah.
So let's get to you. So Richie, where did life begin for you?
Life began Napier Hospital, Hawke's Bay, New Zealand. Cannot remember exactly what time of the day I was born, but my parents were sheep and beef farmers in the Hawke's Bay region at that time. So that's the east coast of the North Island. Probably the best description of this province is almost the California of New Zealand. We had 26 degrees Celsius the other day on a winter's day in Hawke's Bay. Yeah. So,
and that was like Burrawa, Australia. It was pretty hot out here, even in June. No, we were like 3s and 5s and 10s, and then 26 over there.
We have a mountain range which separates New Zealand, and when the hot nor'wester blows, it dumps all its moisture on the west side, and when it comes over the other side, it descends and heats up along the plains. So you can just have this unseasonably warm weather at any time of the year. It's quite incredible.
And so what did that, does that influence you? So born on a farm.
Yeah, it has. It definitely influenced me because I spent probably my first 18 years of my life on farming properties. So we farmed the first, I think, 6 years of my life. We farmed quite close to a river called the Tuki. That was just 15 minutes out of Havelock North. So that's one of the townships in Hawke's Bay. Lovely wine growing region, probably world renowned, or is world renowned now for beautiful gimlet gravels and red wines. And then from there we moved further south to central Hawke's Bay, so the central part of the province, quite close to a beach called Karakau Beach. And that was a beautiful farm. It was tile drained, had a lot of silt.
Sorry, tile drained?
Yeah, so it meant the past farmer had put small almost drain pipes underneath the silt to assist in the drainage because it was on a historic floodplain. And that meant that, we almost had it at one stage before they put a large water retention program in. At one stage, they had too much water flowing down there. So it was just to assist in the dispersal of water.
So what's the rainfall there?
Yeah, the rainfall there. So we were tucked in underneath a range. We were about 1,000 mils, but only 15 minutes or 20 minutes from us, 1,000 metres up, they had 2,000 to 3,000 mils of rain per year. So yeah, it was very prone to localised rainfall events too. Hence the need to. We had a creek running straight through. Hence the need to redistribute water sometimes.
And I guess they might get more rain than you. But however, their rain probably goes past you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. So, they had a particular rainfall event, I think it was about 10 years ago, where they received, they worked it out, I think it was a 1 in 500 year event, but they received about, I think it was between 600 to 800 millimetres of rain overnight almost.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal.
That's outrageous.
And just in my time living in Hawke's Bay, like from when I was a youngster to now, anecdotally I'm speaking, I've noticed these shifts in these kind of rainfall events. And that's just speaking from my 33 years of experience. But
so less rain. More rain.
I'm not saying necessarily more rain, but more extremes.
Yeah.
More tropical-based weather as well, more moisture-laden, humid weather that just has more volatility, more thunderstorm-like weather. But I was very fortunate to grow up there. It was a beautiful farm, rolling hills. Dad was, and probably if he still farm now, is a very astute farmer. Knew how to limit overheads, but knew how to get the best out of his livestock as well, and just farm so independently. So for that reason, I probably worked out pretty early on that I wasn't going to be a farmer, but I loved hanging out on farms because while Dad was working in the yards or out doing stock work, I'll just be roaming the property. And I think just having that independence early on and often returning quite late after nightfall or chasing ducks in a dam or catching frogs or things like that, it developed that idea that, hey, I'm at ease out here. And that's probably that idea that's consistent with being seen by nature.
And so that was a childhood thing. You went to school when you weren't chasing frogs?
Yeah, I went to a little country school, which is great. It's funny with country schools because, like the one where I was based education-wise, I probably became more of a non-linear setup, like in terms of learning the forms of maths, English, science, things like that. But in terms of my experiences, they were, country. I almost feel like every child should have at least 1 or 2 years at a country school just to build that bank of country experiences. That my favourite often was the principal joining us for like the lunchtime game of Bull Rush, and he would just choose not to ring the bell for the afternoon period, so we'd just play through to 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like I'm holding on. I guess now when you get older, sometimes all you hold on to are those memories, and they become pivot points. And for me, I'm like, that's just great. It was a super fun time. But from that country school, I then moved into a more urban-based setting and more intellectually based setting, I guess, rather than life experience.
That it's that being playful is a really thing. Getting back to referencing Patrick McManaway, I remember he did some clearing of some stuff of us at a property up at the Northern Rivers in New South Wales some years ago, and he stayed with us. And I remember him saying to Lilla, just never lose your imagination. And, I was reading something recently about, surveys have shown that when a child is born in its first few years, I'm not sure quite how they measure it, but, 98% of children, what they would term a genius, by definition, a genius. And then they clock them at, ages 14 and then 20 or something, or 18. And by the time they're like in their late teens or early 20s, it's like 2% of genius because the school system knocks the crap out of them. It essentially knocks your creativity out of them.
Yeah.
And that I guess that sense of playfulness and, that as you experienced, and I did too on a farm, of there are boundaries and you always need to find them and push them and, the consequences of, but working that shit out yourself.
Definitely.
And having the scope or the permission and the environment in which to be creative.
Yeah, it's creative and curiosity. I was fortunate to work for a education-based consultancy. This was just during the onset of COVID, actually. So it was my foray into online-based learning or working at home style employment. And this education-based consultancy actually looked at a theory from a Harvard professor that was the theory of multiple intelligence. And that is via both a genetic basis, but also an environmental basis, that there's different parts of our brains that have evolved due to different kinds of societal needs. And, it might have been argued that it was more environmentally based, but the argument for myself is that there were 9 intelligences. There was nature-based intelligence, there was linguistic intelligence, there was what else was there? Interpersonal, so between people, intrapersonal, existential, the asking of the big questions, musical. There's a couple more too that have just evaded my memory.
Like the analytical,
mathematical, analytical, definitely. Yeah, and I know personally for me, I'm more of a nature-based kid, and I think what I discovered, and looking back in the beauty of hindsight, it's not necessarily what we're learning, it's kind of the process of how we're learning. So it's moving back to that process and how are we actually going to work out, that maths problem. And if you shift the how to, hey, let's use an environmental or a nature-based approach for me, that immediately becomes much more tangible. I become more curious. And also often the learning happens when, you give someone a project and there's all these other learnings that are operating on the peripheral. Like I could go out and try and count those ducks there. While I'm counting those ducks out on that dam, a wedge-tailed eagle could come through and swoop at little kangaroo or something like that. And then that's just like through that how of learning, I've managed to make some observations elsewhere. And that's, I feel, the journey of learning. That's the beauty, isn't it?
Well, it's nature, nature, and that is the ultimate classroom.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And she is the ultimate teacher.
She is.
And it's not almost like teaching, it's just like putting stuff there, and you and your own character and personality and opportunity and curiosity, the key part of the recipe, picks up, observes, absorbs those experiences, and that is deep-seated learning, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's experiential.
Well, it's actually relevant, isn't it?
It's super relevant, yeah. And yeah, it's, again, I'm no expert in this, but I know personally I learn from experience, and I always, ride that line of making mistakes as well, because obviously, they say the old adage, you don't make mistakes, you don't learn, but then also, you need to be mindful that you're aware of what the consequence of that action can be. So it's a balance, but I think, nature provides that medium and that environment for you to gauge that understanding too. Which is the lovely thing about growing up on a farm, because working with livestock early on enabled me to realize that there's more than just me, and that's a good thing too. Takes the weight off my shoulders a little bit.
We could go on. I've got another idea about consequence about kids, but we'll touch on that maybe later. I've probably mentioned before. So, inspired by nature, learning in nature, farm life, finished up school, and then where'd you go?
Yeah, it's probably when I was 15. I won't forget here. I remember when Steve Irwin died, And when Steve Irwin died, it was funny. It was like I was missing a mate all of a sudden, because I used to watch him quite religiously every Sunday on Animal Planet. And I sort of made a decision then. I was like, I'm going to study some animal-based sciences, and I'm going to travel the world as a conservationist, or do this or do that. And obviously, lots of things happen in between, but that initial intention just there, it's kind of like my inner child that I sometimes fall back on every now and again. That led me from high school to Otago University, where I sunk my teeth into a zoology, marine science, and wildlife management degree.
Cool.
Yeah.
In 3 years?
That was 3 initial years for the undergraduate, and then a further 2 years for the masters.
Which you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
So masters in wildlife management. And I sort of cut it up a little bit, because finishing the undergraduate, I had a major in zoology, a minor in marine science, but I really loved marine science. So I actually went over to Townsville, North Queensland, and studied under the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority for a year. I was based at the Educational Centre Reef HQ Aquarium, and we were conducting research there. And so that gave me a more of a focus on the marine environment.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was kind of stuff dreams were made of, actually. I remember, I can be guilty sometimes of being a little bit too keen and just giving it 100. But definitely in my career, I think giving it 100 has enabled me to work out very quickly what's going to work and what doesn't. But to secure that position, and it was only voluntary, I had to support myself for that year when I was in Townsville. It's another story. I'll tell you how I supported myself over there.
Yeah, when you were there.
Yeah, when I was
there. When do I hear this story?
Yeah,
finish that bit when we get to that story, because now you've got me thinking.
No, it's not too creative in that sense. But where was I? I've lost my train of thought now.
Sorry, I do it. Right, Townsville.
Townsville. Studying there for a year. Yes. And it was a nice focus on the marine
100%.
science aspect of things, and giving it 100%. Because for me, I wouldn't have been able to pick up that position without flying myself over and saying, here I am. For others, I think they might have been content and just being like, oh, we'll just put that application in, we'll let it be. But I know now in hindsight, and it's with my parents' support too, that they pushed me in these moments to be like, you show face. Front up.
Yeah.
Your presence is pretty much 90%.
Yep.
If you're there and physically there, then that'll make a huge difference. So I always definitely try and remember that.
Good little habit in life. So did your time there. So how did you support yourself?
I used to. I became like the human metal detector. So I remember I worked up to that point for 6 months in an Apple packing shed, and fortunately I was living with my parents, so I could save everything I had, and I think I went over with about 8,000 to 10,000 New Zealand dollars.
Sweet.
And I was paying $100 a week in rent. I'm just trying to do the math there. So it's about half my time was paid in rent. Half my $10,000 was paid in rent over there. And I used to bike the streets and look for shrapnel. But this is on the way to the reef, the aquarium, and on the way back. And because I worked out just down the road from where I lived in Gallivare, there's a little veggie store, and they had offcuts as well. And the offcuts were often like $2 a box.
Yeah.
And I could eat so well, like incredible fresh, sweet potato, vegetables, and then that would just be complemented with a little bit of meat that the boys at the aquarium may have spear fished or things like that. So
a dolphin passed away.
Yeah, pretty much at the aquarium. It was an amazing experience actually, because it's the largest living, or at the time the largest living coral reef exhibit in the world. So indoors, it was a huge tank, and so all the coral was propagated, and then actually put in the tank. I think it was like 40 meters by 10 meters by 6 or 7 meters deep. But we used to have to get in every week to actually clean the tank. And then when you're in the tank, you can see all the public are looking at you as well. So
you're in your scuba gear.
Yeah, you're in your scuba gear, and you become actually part of the experience as you're actually cleaning the tank. But you're sharing territory in there with. I remember Sienna the sawfish. She was
cool.
This enormous sawfish, and every now and again there would be a little bit of aquarium homicide when you would come in. At the start of the day, we had a predators tank and then a coral reef exhibit tank. And sometimes you'd walk in at the start of the day and there's half a giant trevally just floating Upturns.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Because they're not small, John.
They're not small. And seeing a sawfish actually predate, it's when she moved past, she sat very, very still because a lot of these animals, I guess, drawn to movement, and they have that instinct where, I guess if they get that message from the environment that they either need to protect themselves and they need to hunt this prey, then that saw is going to wildly move left or right. So it wasn't something you wanted to get.
So literally like a slash.
Yeah, like a slash. Yeah, so we would find, giant trevally that were just chopped in half. And that was just purely because they got a little bit too close. I don't think she had the intention. She was so well fed anyway, but she probably just felt the need to exercise her prowess every now and again.
Well, I guess the good news is that, that she can still express her swordfishness.
Yeah. When I was there, she actually got shipped to a Singapore aquarium, which is a larger exhibit. It was so great working for Reef HQ because they were so animal welfare based as well. We had a turtle hospital there, and that was a terrific experience where we had these turtles that were struck by boats, and then you'd have these other turtles would come in with mystery injuries, and you'd have to work out, was it a shark, was it a crocodile, was it this, was it that, and then actually heal these turtles back to a good bill of health, and then release them. And it was a great exercise early on for me, where these releases became a community based thing. So we'd say, we're releasing this certain turtle at Bowen. And, you get 300 or 400 people. We released Gary the turtle once, and
Gary,
he was a big gazza. Yeah, he was a big unit.
What's a turtle was he?
He wasn't. No, we only had one leatherback that came through. They weren't super common around where we were. It's evaded me. Green sea turtle.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but still pretty big.
Yep.
Yeah.
A bit of an event.
Yeah, it was a total event for the community, and a great way to get up close to these animals as well. That's the thing, I guess if you study zoology, generally you're drawn, or this is again speaking from my bias, it's those animals of consequence, the animals you grow up watching on TV. It's the big wildebeest or giraffe or the big sharks or the big orca. They're the animals that really captivate your attention. So giving the public an opportunity to be in quite close contact with sort of the modern day megafauna, like a 1.5 metre long turtle, was quite special.
1.5 metre long?
Yeah, I think they'd be at least a metre.
Really?
Yeah, so Jesus. I mean, this turtle would be the length of this.
That's enormous.
Yeah, I think
is that bigger than a leatherback?
Leatherbacks are the largest. Yeah, leatherbacks again don't quote me on the exact, but that just from memory that would seem about the size. And I just wonder whether being a reptile they just continue to grow throughout their life as well. Like crocodiles will continue to grow throughout their life. So the older a turtle is, I wonder if it just the larger it is as well.
Yeah, right. I did eat turtle once upon a time up in Arnhem Land. My year after school went pearl diving, and that was because there was lots of Thursday Islanders up there, and that was kind of part of their culture, I guess. So we ate turtle.
Yeah.
On the odd occasion. I can't remember what it was like.
Yeah.
I wasn't there at the point of dispatch and everything, but I remember eating the stew.
Yeah. Well, this is
tasty.
This is all stuff I have to learn. I'm looking to take a winter guiding position in Kakadu National Park next year. Which will be super exciting. But I'm particularly looking forward to the Indigenous perspectives on utilising these animals and or how they view these animals too. So obviously they have this very intricate kinship system that I'm in no position to interpret, but I'm doing a course at the moment. It's been very fascinating learning about it. And it's just because they're eating turtle, there's still a connection there. There's still ceremony around. There's still, this really powerful thing that enables us to be part of a natural experience.
Yeah, and I guess there's death obviously involved, but I guess where there's life, there's death.
Totally.
They can't exist outside of each other. And, it's about nutrition and so on. And then, in theory, those people can, if they're doing it in a respectful way, they're providing each other with sustenance.
Yeah.
And in the quantities of people up there, and it's just part of life.
It is.
It is life and it is death.
And it is funny because you think, like, when you're in a more spiritual focus on life, that for want of a better term, without getting too existential here, but when you observe death frequently, your perspective on it may be different to what is presented to us, where someone dies and in the media it's presented as great sadness and this and this. So you just wonder how they differ in their interpretation of death compared to, someone who's, even like myself, who's confronted more with the sadness associated, perhaps.
Well, that's a really good point. On a farm, there's a lot of death, there's a lot of life. There's also death, and so I've seen things and had to deal with things as a farmer that most farmers do anyway that would horrify a lot of people, understandably. But that's kind of life, and that's normal. That's my normal kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's just a function of environment and career.
Yeah.
But again, getting back to the biodynamics workshop you're going to be at tomorrow and Saturday, then we do talk a lot about, somewhat about reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to Paul Check the other day, who I'm interviewing when I'm in the States, living 4D with Paul Check, legend. He, I can't remember the guy he was interviewing, but they talk about reincarnation and, if we don't, reincarnation or the concept of reincarnation is a really healthy way or really good motivation for looking after this planet. Because it's like, I've got this thing, if I can digress, but not really digress, about, it's not my concept and it's pretty broad, but it's like, be kind to your future self. And until recently, I thought about my future self in terms of my life. So this it's little thing I do now, and it's kind of it's a seed I'm planting for habit, is in the evening, before I go to bed and turn the lights out in the kitchen, I put a breadboard next to the kettle, I put my cup, and I put my apple cider vinegar, and I fill the kettle up with water. So all I have to do in the morning is flick it on. I'm being kind to my future self, being my morning routine.
Yeah.
I'm making it easy for me to have that glass of warm apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
And then the day, it's a bit of a ritual. But more recently, I'm thinking, well, my future self is not just this lifetime.
No.
It's God knows how many more, So am I going to be here at Hannah? No, probably not.
Yeah.
I could be a woman in pick a country.
Yeah.
God knows what, and I could be a very different situation in I don't know how many years' time. Just like, wow, if you start thinking about intergenerational stuff, it's like, that's, and let's not be scared about the future. Let's contribute to it potentially being better for everyone in whatever way we have the capacity for. But
well, again, it's like, for me, I always just think about along those lines where, like when I'm doing my astronomy talks and I talk about the energy coming from, outer space, beyond the Kármán line, beyond 100 kilometres above Earth, but that somehow miraculously being turned into biology here on Earth. Well, very pragmatically, if we die, we become almost physics again, okay? But that physics has been transformed into biology. It's already been proven. And so, I think this existential nature, and again, it was in my nature-based education consultancy, it was just amazing to hear, I think, these unfiltered responses you would get from children regarding this. There was a purity there, and it was just something that was coming from completely within themselves. Which was great, and it certainly opened up my perspective, because when you work down the science route, I guess you always have to be mindful to keep open-minded too.
We tend in science to silo things, and because there's the science and then there's the research or the pulling apart, essentially, which is what research has to be in some ways, to identify its parts, to analyse it, because otherwise there's too many variables.
Yeah.
Back to the kids, children's and their unfiltered thing. There's many, many examples of children in their unfiltered, wonderful way telling about previous lives.
Yeah, I bet there is. Yeah.
And there's even been cases where kids, I'm talking in their, before their teenagers generally, they've actually gone back and shown people, their parents or police, the site at which they in the previous life were murdered, dispatched.
Wow.
Literally. And then I think in one case there was the guy who did it was arrested because they actually found DNA back at that site. It's just fascinating stuff. And there's just too much of that for kids making up stuff. Well, maybe, but then they sort of do the research, investigate, and goes, actually, there's too much lining up here.
Yeah.
For some kid just to make up a story.
I know.
Coincidentally happened to be, you know.
But that's my belief at the core there. Like, it almost comes from, I guess, my science-based training is I look at it from that micro level, from that physical level. But at some stage, there's been that transformation of energy from like an elemental, like an abiotic to a biotic form, and it's happened before. So why wouldn't it happen again? And and that's where I start. And I guess I try not to overthink it too much because I guess the beauty will be in the spontaneity. Like where else are you going after this?
What also does shed a different light on the life we have now, that, you know, and it's a hard concept to sort of get your head around or swallow or kind of accept is, you know, death isn't the end.
No, I'm a firm believer it isn't. And I try even now I try and exercise. Like, I know I've got a 3-year-old blue heeler, Aussie kettle dog at home in New Zealand. And I often think, if he's not here tomorrow, I'm going to make sure I give him the best day or life today. But I also know I'm going to be hugely sad, like enormously sad if he one day he goes. But I try not to view that sadness. I'm trying to view it, I guess, as the human experience. And it's funny when like for me, I often think daily. I'm like, what do I want to feel today? And as of late, it's just been grounded or humbled. And I think if there's one thing that really humbles and grounds and brings you right back to the present, is when something that you've had that you really love isn't just there anymore. And it's funny because for me, I'm like, I really enjoy that feeling. Like I love the groundedness it brings, but it comes with that real heartache as well. So
it really spices it up, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, yes, there's a deadline.
Yeah.
You know, all dogs die.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but you know, generally before us, unless you're 99 yourself. But it's the let's do it make this the most beautiful experience for the dog, because I reckon too many sort of things have happened and too many interesting experiences. You know, dogs because that's more of a domesticated, you know, example of interactions with humans and us as and me personally. You know, coming back or you know that the dog. I don't know, but I don't believe that someone can reincarnate as an animal. I think there's too many, and you'll learn about this in biodynamics, as you know, the etheric and astral and mineral and the sort of the I am. So we operate on a different plane to animals and plants. So that doesn't necessarily allow for a human to come back as a dog.
Yeah.
But I do think that on some level, you know, animals do come back around in some way. You know, the way that animals find people.
There's some terrific movies on there, isn't there? What's that movie? A Dog's Purpose. Gee, that brought a tear to my eye.
I haven't. I better write that down.
Yeah, I think it's a dog. There's a book about it too, but it's about that. It's about the soul that's traversing through all these canines' lives, and it completes the full loop because the owner identifies that this dog did that daughter spontaneously. That's red.
No, that's red. Talking about dogs.
Yeah, the owner detected because this dog did the exact same trick that his previous dog.
One.
Yeah,
I reckon. Yeah. See that, just case in point, Red, who's just behind us, he's off camera. I don't know if you can see him. He's lying there in front of the door.
Big, beautiful Maremma.
Beautiful Maremma. He was, I'm not sure if I've told this story to the general public before, but he was rescued from a farm 3 years ago now by some lovely people who work with us, and we went to see him. I think I might have told you the story. We went to see him one Sunday and his other mates, and he was living at that point 5 k's from here at least. You know where Bonnie Doon is?
Yeah,
far away
Bonnie Doon.
Anyway, the next day he turns up here. He'd escaped with his mate. The mate stayed there. He kept on coming, and he could have gone north, south, east, west. He could have visited a number of other houses, and he literally trotted into our garden and sat on the mat outside the front. Never been in a house or a building before in his life, I don't think. And took some months for him to overcome his shyness. And he just stayed here. And he's now an integral part of our team. You know, we're his new chickens, because he was a chicken guard, now he's a people guard for us. So we're his new chickens.
You're his new purpose.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly, it feels like that. And, you know, it's funny because he took some time to even put a foot inside. And again, I might have told you this, some months later, we're going, where's Red? He was here a minute ago. And I walk into one of the bedrooms. Could have been this one. He's just like...
Yeah. He's just dropped his guard.
He's gone, God, that was a good idea, escaping and finding it. But that was, that to me, there's more in that than just the dog happened to turn up here.
Yeah.
There's so much more than that. And
definitely
what his purpose, long-term purpose is, I mean, he's a lovely, lovely dog. He's a joy. He's a protector. He's so many things. Let's get back to, so did your time on the Coral Reef?
Coral Reef, I had a year there, and then I remember at that time I was a weather nut too. I loved the climate, and I used to, just when I was in, I always wanted to be a weather forecaster. I used to write emails to New Zealand Met Service all the time, asking them when the next tropical cyclone was happening. It was an obsession of mine as a child. So I wanted to I thought, well, if I'm in the sort of marine science space, I wonder if I can get into the atmospheric space and work for the National Institute of Water and Atmosphere, NIWA, in New Zealand. And at that time, I sent an application to them, which was declined, and I called them up for some feedback.
How rude.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But anyway, some very valuable feedback came back to me. And it's interesting, it was a matter, and I say this point blank now, of just working the system, funnily enough, where she said, well, if you really want to work for us, you're going to have to change that BSc into an M. So, so...
That's when you did your other
so I did my Masters, and it was more the fact that, I sort of talked to her, I was having anything specific, certain things, potentially, but it's more the fact that that next level of study that you're able to operate and the skill set required and things like that. So I wanted to keep my options open, so I chose having a kind of zoological background, a marine science, which involved quite a bit of chemistry and things like that, and physics. And I thought I'd just keep my options open and move into wildlife management. And thankfully I did, because when I finished that master's degree, I had an opportunity come to me to guide in the Blue Mountains in Australia. And when I was finishing my master's placement, I remember this was all physical. So it was a research placement based at Cape Kidnappers in the Hawke's Bay luxury resort there, and we had a predator-proof fence, which was a sanctuary. We had kiwi, we had kakariki, beautiful native birds, native insects, some beautiful fauna you only find in New Zealand. And it was my job, whenever we had guests coming through, to actually show them certain areas of the enclosure, show them certain areas of biodiversity. And I remember I'd leave some of these trips with a nice fat $50 or $100 bill in my hand, and I thought, it's funny, I've always been been around an environment where if you can't make the money yourself, maybe just position yourself where that waterfall of money is. And I thought at that time, a bit of a poor student, significant student loan, maybe I should just look where this money is coming from. And that's when this was quite funny, within a couple of months, this opportunity to guide in the Blue Mountains at, perhaps Australia's only 6-star resort, Walgan Valley. Emirates owned, managed by one and only, and that's where I spent my next 5 years, wildlife guiding, nature-based guide.
5 years?
Yeah.
Gee, that's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. It was, I think I took the role just before my 25th birthday, and I went through to after 29. So, yeah, certainly during my time there, I mean, for anyone who's been to Walgan Valley, nestled between two stunning national parks, it's a former cattle station that's now been turned into a conservancy. And like for guests that stay there, whether from Australia or abroad, they can wake up and there's wombats on their doorstep. It's a pretty special experience. We had one of the highest capita rates of wombats, I think, per hectare found anywhere within New South Wales.
Is that because they were comfortable there, they were getting fed, or they were just,
I think
protected?
A combination where they felt comfortable, but also geographic sort of separation, where surrounding us, we had escarpments that were 400 to 500 metres high. And a wombat tends to think smarter, not harder. It's like that old legend where, the common ancestor of both the koala and the wombat, the koala saw this food around above ground level and thought, I'm going to climb trees and eat those leaves, not knowing what those leaves would actually mean nutritionally, and we know they're not great nutritionally, versus a wombat was thinking, Australia's pretty hot, I reckon I'll spend the daytime underground and I'll come out and graze at night. I see plenty of grass, so I was thinking a little bit more. So yeah, and wombats, we sort of developed some good relationships with some resident wombats. They're obviously wild-based relationships, but you began to understand their personalities as well.
And you reckon you went for a bit of a night scout round here a couple of nights ago. You reckon you found it?
I reckon, and it's interesting, thinking back to my Walgan Valley days, I think one wombat can occupy between a 20 to 30 hectare home range.
Territory.
Yeah. So that if I found a burrow that was about, it would have been a foot across, and a foot deep as well. And it didn't look like it had been used that night, but there was fresh poo found within the. I sort of had a look down, felt my hand, put my hand down, found some. Fortunately, nothing reptilian, but found a bit of scat, and that scat resembled the square-like scat that we had in Walgan Valley. But I'm under the knowledge that one wombat will probably have multiple homes, a few holiday homes here and there as well.
Oh, really? He'll scoot over there, and visit there. And
yeah.
He might have your girlfriends around.
He might have to jump the fence every now and again, both literally and figuratively, because this one was within a shelter belt, so it was all fenced off.
Well, I'm glad you did find that, because so you found that in the day, and you went back at night to sort of suss it out.
Went back at night, and funnily enough, I'd sort of walked the shelter belt and didn't see any wombats, but I found a lot of engineering underneath some beautiful growth trees in there, and the engineering could have been, the soil engineering could have been because of potentially pigs, could have been due to wallabies, kangaroos, things like that. But I did find some more of that square-like poo in these areas where the soil had been dug up, and it was quite cool looking at the soil. And I talk about it from an ecosystem engineering space where you see all this grass being propagated through the soil that's been disturbed in the past too. So I guess that's something I learned at Walgan Valley, especially, is these animals, when they overturn the soil, I guess because they have evolved with the other elements of the environment, they could be providing a benefit.
Well, I guess they're sort of tending to their garden.
They are, yeah. No, they super cute, the old wombat. Got a hard plate on their backside, and apparently the stories were that in Walgan Valley, the old fox used to be trapped between that hard plate and the side of the burrow, as the fox was found within the wombat burrow. So they can be very territorial when required. But I'd say if I came across a wild one that was the only one in that territory, it would have scarpered as probably as soon as it heard me.
Yeah, with a human. I also told you the story of many years ago, my dog at the time barking at the back here just behind us, the door of the house just behind us here, and me walking around the corner, there's a wombat sitting. I've never seen a wombat ever in my life, sitting on the back doormat, literally sitting on the doormat, and I picked it up, and it just sort of sat there, and I rang Wise, and they said, whatever you do, don't pick it up. And it didn't attack or scratch me, and then she came out and released it out in the paddock. And suggested it was probably had already been in captivity handled. At some point, handled, and then that's why it could be handled. Yeah, and it might have been end of life, sort of bit of a visit here, just because it was looking for some shelter or some warmth or something. But it was fascinating. So, I don't mind the idea of wombats here, because I just don't know, given the, I can't see them exploding in population to a point in the next couple of decades where that'd be a real problem, because I do know there's a lot of people who don't like wombats because for a number of reasons.
Yeah, but, impact they have on pastures and soil and
like in paddocks and erosion and that sort of thing. It depends on where and how many and that sort of stuff. But also, they're not what you want to hit in a car or a road, because they can total cars just because of their size. Like kangaroos are much bigger generally, but in terms of they're solid and their plate and the whole thing, like. Many a car's been written off.
I have a little a rescue wombat based in Blaney. A lovely lady called Deb. She is these people who care for wombats are like superhumans. But I came across a wombat on the road. Mum dead, but I cut open the pouch and found a little 400-gram joey inside. So I took it home and I called emergency vet, wildlife rescue. So they said, look, you're going to have to look after it for the night, and we'll find someone in the morning. But it was touch and go for the night, and it was quite cool. Remember, I was sleeping with a little baby wombat that night. The little noises it was making was so cute.
What did you put it in a sock or something?
Sock in a hot water bottle, and just had to be very mindful that I didn't roll onto it during the night, just to keep.
They ring up the next morning and go, so Richie, how'd you go with that wombat? And I went,
wombat pancakes.
Didn't get through the night.
Yeah, but anyway, and it was on that touch and go, like a sort of size range, and then so we gave it to wildlife rescue, and it ended up at Debbie's house. This little wombat's now called Bale's. And
Bale's?
Bale's.
Oh, cool.
And this wombat still periodically comes and visits Debbie, but she has 120 acre space there where she basically releases them into that area. So that was, it was a nice, made me feel a little bit more Australian, which is funny when you come from New Zealand and you're educating people in the environment about Australia, but you haven't grown up here, you're always thinking, am I as authentic as I should be? But having those bank of experiences working with Australian wildlife in particular.
Well, you're now officially accepted by Australia, given you've looked after one of our wildlife. So thank you.
No worries.
You've got unofficially permission to stay and come and go as you please.
Unofficial accreditation.
Yeah. If you just let the people at the passport office know that.
I will.
I go, that's right,
Yeah.
Richie and Bell's.
Yeah, that's right. I'll have a little, where the passport photo is, I'll just have a two-sided page.
That's pretty much.
We'll have Bell's as well.
You don't need a stamp every time you come and go. You just flash the picture of Bell's.
Yeah,
and they go,
right.
Richie, yes, of course.
Always wanted to do that. Just
your taxi awaits.
That's right. Just be important enough where you can just flash something and just be diverged. I remember watching a documentary on the boxer Manny Pacquiao, and they held up an entire public 747 that was travelling somewhere else because Manny Pacquiao hadn't made it to the airport yet. And it was a public flight, but no one on the plane was annoyed because he was a national hero. And I just thought, it'd be just experiencing that once, like that feeling once in a lifetime. It's like kind of what comedians might have as well. Where the whole crowd in the room's for you. That was 1,000 people just there.
Yeah.
That you're experiencing something there that not all humans will experience.
Well, you've got many years to live, Richie. That's a fair chance that might happen.
Yeah.
Depending on your career choice. I mean, you've obviously got made a choice somewhat of your career, but how you develop and grow that.
You just never know.
You might do that.
You start banking more experiences.
Why are we waiting on this plane? Oh, Richie Laming's coming. Oh,
yeah.
Sure. Oh, just hang 10. Fine. I'd wait an hour or two.
Put the feet up.
Jesus, like an All Black.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah, I think those times have come and gone, but we were discussing last night.
Oh, rugby.
Yeah, rugby. Yeah, it's a union stronghold around here.
Look, it's. I wouldn't say, and the leagueies are the same.
Yeah.
So we call them mungos, they call us rah-rahs, but there's some respect between the two of us.
Yeah.
And there's it's defection every now and again, one or the other. But the Rovers, the Bora Rovers, won the GF last year.
Wow.
Yeah, big year. And it's probably half and half, I would hazard to say.
Yeah.
So two reasonably strong codes.
Do they share territory in the club rooms every now and again?
They do share the change rooms.
Yeah.
But not fields. Wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
Not that far.
Yeah. No calendar shoots coming up for kind of
intercode
calendar shoots.
No. Well, that mightn't be a bad idea though. But I don't know. There'd be a bit of everyone would be just showing off then. It'd be a bit of you know what it'd be like.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Roosters in the hen house just strutting around. We're referencing a nude calendar that Bora Rugby Club did in 2000. We actually did it in 99 in support of a Hong Kong Football Club trip. In 2000, I'm not sure how much we raised. We had a lot of fun. We raised a lot of eyebrows. I know that.
Yeah, probably in Hong Kong too.
8 days of atrocities. It was homicide.
In the best possible sense.
Yeah, no, in a good way. Like, no one was injured.
Yeah.
Oh, there were a few injuries, but that's not for this. That's not for this forum.
No.
No, that's a subscribers.
Yeah, this is the PG only.
We'll get to that. So tell me, Walgren Valley, 5 years, and then what happened? I'm just conscious of the time.
Yeah, sweet.
So I'm thinking, I've got to talk to my accountants at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, cool.
But this is not the end of it, because I reckon we're just going to have to find another
little niche.
Oh yeah, no, maybe a couple of niches. I've got a Q&A to do at the end of it.
Yeah,
but maybe a bit later on today. We'll work it out offline. But because this is great, I'm loving this. So let's because we haven't even talked about Lake Hawea Station.
No, I know that's a whole different kettle of fish, as they would say.
Yeah. So tell us. So
came back from Australia, and so actually had one more year up from Walgren Valley up in the Whitsundays, Early Beach, working on Hayman Island just there, and that was more. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so they just recovered from a cyclone. They're being rebuilt, and I knew I was sort of returning to New Zealand in time. So I had a short stint up there. Actually finished at that time I was doing a paramedic diploma. So through the Australian Paramedical College, I had an instance at Walgan Valley where this is just amazing. I always think like how things work out. I had anaphylactic experience on a guided trip.
You did?
Not myself, but with a 7-year-old,
yeah.
a 7-year-old young lad, and it just so happened within my group was an allergy specialist from Victoria, and she knew exactly what to do and when to apply the EpiPen and what other medications to give. Because up until that point, you sort of come out of doing first aid or wilderness first aid, but I didn't have a medical backbone, to my understanding, and working in remote locations, I thought it would just be great just for peace of mind to have a greater understanding of what's happening in the body medically. And so that led me to do a paramedic diploma, which is the equivalent of sort of emergency medical technician, but in the private sector. So
wow. How long was that?
That was a year and a half of study,
Wow.
which involves a few workshops, a few placements as well. One of those was up in Hayman Island. So this was via Australian Paramedical College. But
So they put you there?
yeah, so I was doing a little bit of work there too, and then worked at the medic centre on the island. So we used to get people with fish hooks coming through their hands. You know, it was quite cool. It was like you sort of come out of studying and you're like, oh, I've got all these formalised approaches, this, and then you work out pretty quickly that you work within that template, but the ingenuity is also required, especially in those situations where you come up against things that you didn't encounter in your training, but you can modify. And I say that I'm very mindful of working within your scope of practice as well. But yeah, you have to make certain adjustments.
God, it must be handy to know all that stuff.
It is, yeah, it is. It's quite funny. I've got a mindset that relates to my anxiety, where my mind can really rev up my body as well. So I had to be very careful that when I was doing paramedicine, I for a time I didn't know how to switch off, and especially during some of my later placements, I'll be working underneath intensive care paramedics, sort of the super paramedics who can do these incredible things, almost like can do surgery out in the field. And these people have such a pedigree, and you're thinking, right, well, I am working almost not with life or death, but I'm working with some pretty significant stuff here, and you really start to rev yourself up in a sense. And it's a big learning curve for me, because as I was thinking more and more, and also you're trying to anticipate what could happen, if you're at a horse riding event or mountain biking or motocross, what kind of trauma you could encounter, what kind of equipment you could need, just so you can be on the front foot. But with that forward thinking also comes like this imagination. We're talking about imagination, but then being able to dial it back as well. And it's something that I'm only just learning over time.
You mean like going to worst case scenario?
Going to worst case scenario, you can quickly feed into catastrophic thinking.
Yeah.
And then, so it's again just dialing it back to thinking, stepping stones to ultimately will lead you to the outcome that will be the best possible outcome that you can deliver. But yeah, the mind's a funny thing, isn't it?
I tell you what, and it is, it can really get carried away. And again, referencing, stop worrying and start living. It's just the practices to sort of stop you to stop you going to that doom loop of thought. And there's a great quote which I'm going to completely butcher, but it was, like many horrible things have happened to me in my life, but only 10% of it ever happened. You know what I mean? Like I've had somebody, I can't remember who even said it, but there's that we do spend 90% of the stuff we worry about never happens.
I know,
because we're in that doom loop. We're in that anxiety.
Yeah, the one book I really want to, I don't know if I should say this entire name here, but you might have to bleep it out. The Subtle Art of Giving a
Fuck.
Yeah,
you can swear, Richie, swear.
I can swear. Yeah. So the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I think that's something that in time is probably my own self-awareness. I'm like, and I was having this discussion with Tim, your Stockton the other day, and I said, look, if someone fell over in a street in front of you, would you even think, or would you just go over and help them? And he'd be like, I'd probably just go over and help them. And a lot of the time, intuitively, I think we're these helping people, but then our mind revs it up. Our mind just keeps revving it up. And so for me, I just kind of, in my mind, if I know that I am going to be helpful in these situations, it'd be nice if my mind just was able to dial back a bit and, like almost come from not giving a fuck, but sometimes giving yourself space to be like that too.
Well, sometimes it's about just kind of being more objective about it and standing back and literally being objective and not letting one's emotions get away with it. You know, it's sort of like the stoic philosophy.
It is, yeah.
Hey, I'm looking at the time.
Cool.
I don't want to start talking about Lake Hawea until we can sit and just continue. So let's just turn this one off.
I was going to say accountancy advice from myself, probably.
You're going to sit in. No. That's an hour and 25, mate. We're cracking on. We haven't got. I can't believe it. Well, I do believe it because we're having good yarns.
Oh, we can edit it down if necessary.
No, we won't. We don't. Farts, burps, interruptions. We don't. Yeah. So I'll just turn it off here now, and then we'll pick it up
at Lake Hawea Station.
Awesome. Thanks, Richie.
Sweet.
This episode of the Regenerative Journey is brought to you by MJ Bale, an Australian menswear brand challenging the status quo. In 2021, they created the world's first methane-reduced wool at their partner farm, Kingston, in Tasmania, to tackle methane, the biggest source of emissions in their woolen garment production. MJ Bale believe local solutions to global challenges can be found when fashion companies work side by side with the science and agricultural communities. And that's exactly what they've been doing. Find them online at mjbale.com. Have to say, I've done some work with the guys there, Jono and Matt and the team at MJ Bale in the last couple of years. And what a professional, wonderful group of people in business sourcing quality Australian wool for their garments. If you haven't got some of MJ Bale gear in your wardrobe, I highly recommend you go to find one of their shops and get yourself some of their rig. Thank you, MJ Bale, for sponsoring this episode. And we'll get on with the rest of the episode with Richie Laming. We're back.
Well fed.
We're back here at the Gabba.
And it's no longer 2 for 22. It's,
no.
It's actually the time being 10 to 2.
It is 10 to 2. 10 to 2. So we've had a bit of a break. I had to get on a call. We had a bit of lunch. We had some leftover gluten-free lasagna, which Mads made, which was sensational. You actually had a cold.
Yeah, I had it cold.
I warmed mine up.
Yeah, I just said I've got to cool the system down every now and again.
Pretty hot conversation earlier. Yeah. So this is what we might call part B. I'm not sure if it'll be a separate episode, but it's certainly the next chapter because we had a lovely chat there before and time got away. So we're back at it, and we did promise ourselves, two things. Yeah. You did a bit of homework in the break.
Yeah, so that the thumping of the chest, it's not, I think we said the thalamus, it's the thymus gland.
I said thyroid, but you're right, thymus. It is.
It's interesting, there's quite a few medical journals online describing technique of thumping on the chest. Yeah. And basically there's quite a bit of discussion about how it holds, the key for transfer of energy from that top part of your body through to the rest of your body. So certainly works for me anyway.
So the tapping, the thumping and the tapping is has some, we didn't just make it up.
Has some merit.
Yeah. So well done, Sherlock, for finding that out in the break.
And the book by Stephen Hawking and his daughter is Unlocking the Universe. So it's a goodie. It's written, like I say, from a very good perspective of kind of the in-between almost the child's and the scientist, but written from a storyteller's perspective.
Oh, cool. Stephen Hawking, so he had kids. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you seen his movie? Not his personal movie, but the movie about him. It's fascinating. Yeah, it was actual.
They had actors.
It was a feature movie a couple of years ago.
I have to watch it.
Yeah, it's incredible how long he held on. But
and did he have his? He had kids. Mm-hmm. At some point in life, was he a fit and healthy chappy at some point?
Yeah, he was up until the age. I think he was in his 20s when he was diagnosed. What was it, motor neuron?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And so he lived. I think that prognosis of motor neuron isn't very long, but he defied the odds.
Good on him.
Yeah,
Stephen.
One heck of a purpose, that's for sure.
I'm just going to put this blind down because I think it's a bit bright on us now. Given we've had an hour or two off camera.
Yeah, I feel like I need to warm up the system again.
That's a bit better. I'm trying to stop coughing my way through it. Now tell me, we promised that we would get straight back into Lake Hawea Station. So you finished at Walgan Valley. You went up to Hayman Island.
For about a year. And then travelled back to New Zealand 1 week before the COVID lockdown. So it was.
Well, your timing was good.
Yeah, the timing, and it wasn't because of COVID as well. So I just already booked flights to come back at that time, and it just so happened to be that COVID happened a couple of weeks later. So lockdown happened for me in the South Island of New Zealand, and I guess for someone who was working in the ecotourism sector, conservation sector in Australia, those kind of opportunities quickly dried up when New Zealand started to function again. But fortunately, at that stage, I had worked from a cousin in a primary industry, working with an electrician's business, driving trucks, heavy machinery, that kind of thing.
Oh, right.
Which keeps
You went labouring.
Yeah, labouring, kept the proverbial wolf from the door. And then I worked my way into an opportunity with a company called Wanaka Water Action Initiative, and they were doing a lot of replanting on farms around the Wanaka region. And at that time, there was a program called Jobs for Nature, and the funding has either completely been removed or ceased since, but there was funding available for planting on farms. So, and Wanaka provided the labour and the expertise and the advice on where to plant, and there's a lot of riparian zones, wetlands, shelter belts being installed, which was terrific because all of a sudden, we started looking at these farm systems as farm ecosystems, so incorporating and providing habitat for not just livestock, but all these other beautiful animals as well.
Did the whole COVID thing, I mean, what it did over here was everyone was shut down pretty much, but it created interesting different social situations, some good, some bad. People tended to find their tribe, and a lot of people, like in New Zealand, was the planting of trees almost like an antidote to isolation. They went like, I'm at home, I've got to be on this farm because I can't go anywhere, I might as well plant trees. Like, was there kind of a bit of a correlation between...
I think so. I think the idea was there first before the feeling, and the feeling's just catching up now. That's the way I see it. There's a lot of research about, at that time, limited flights around the world, and all of a sudden the carbon dioxide emissions were far lower and the world was going to be in a healthier state, so there were all these silver linings. We kept telling ourselves that at that stage, well, this is from my perspective, but weren't entirely feeling it necessarily because there were all these other social challenges that were involved with COVID. But now that we've moved through that, we see and we're kind of moving through the other side, we see the enormous benefit of spending more quality time in nature. Well, that's the way I see it for sure. Because at that time, I guess, you sort of come back as a young professional in your late 20s to New Zealand and you're hoping and aspiring for a role that's going to take you to the next step. But it was a good lesson for me, especially, that life is a non-linear process. So you can keep taking stepping stones forward and forward, but sometimes to cross that river, you might just have to take a step across or even a step back.
Sink and swim.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, cool. So you were hands-on there, or you
hands-on? Yeah, so a lot of tree planting. That was so a lot of tree planting on different farms, and I just sort of got to know the Wanaka folk and the Wanaka farm landscape then, which was really cool. It was a lovely opportunity to actually travel around Wanaka at the time, and that took me from there. I was then presented with a role as a first aid and pre-hospital emergency care instructor. So I was sort of putting a bit of pressure on myself to maintain all the skills I'd learnt in Australia at that time. So I wanted to stay in the nature space, but also wanted to do what I could to stay in the pre-hospital care space as well. So worked as an instructor in the Central Otago region. That was for about a year to a year and a half. And then I was working about 4 days per week, about 10 to 12 hour days. And then it just sort of came to a point where at that time I just thought, like, at a challenging point for me, I was like, do I head back to Australia where it was super fun, safe for me, I was in my element, or should I just take a real risk and stay here in New Zealand and almost subtly take that not give a fuck approach and throw myself at any opportunity I come along? And it was almost immediately within the next couple of months that I was throwing out, I sort of had a very shifted mindset. I was throwing out a lot of opportunities. I was throwing out a lot of feelers to different places, and I stumbled across Lake Hawea Station. I knew they were in the regenerative farming space. I grew up in a farm. I knew I had something to offer from the biodiversity point of view, and it was simply a matter of just sending my CV in and walking up the driveway and knocking on the door.
Excuse me. So, like you were saying before, you turned up at the North Queensland, the but the
Great Barrier Reef
Great Barrier
Park
Reef,
Authority. Yeah.
So had you sent your CV,
Sent my CV in,
and then you literally rolled up and said hi,
and then showed face and rolled up.
Did you know
hi.
that the CV had been received? Had any feedback?
I hadn't known at that point actually, but I did receive an email. It was within a very short amount of time. But then I received an email to say, look, we're interested, and especially from the tourism point of view. But then it was quite cool. I had a sort of, and I enjoyed it. I had a bit of a, I guess, probation period with Lake Hawea Station initially, and Jack, the farm manager, will like me saying this, I was a full-time lawnmower. So I was roaming around the beautiful grounds of Lake Hawea Station, mowing lawns, doing labour tasks, things like that. And it was the perfect foundation to really understand the landscape there too.
And tell me I thought I was going to take that one there now. Oh, back to New Zealand. So you had the choice to go, I think you might have said play it safe. So it was sensible to go back to Australia because that's where you did your training and you kind of knew the land.
At that time,
but staying in New Zealand was more of a risk. It sounds like, to me, sounds like the opposite. Like, I'll stay at home because I know everyone, or I go back to Australia where anything could happen. It sort of sounds like an interesting dilemma or choice or decision, like this or that.
The garnish I didn't throw in there was my anxiety during the COVID period had come to probably its peak. So I first started having anxiety attacks when I was younger, probably 12, 13. And then they died down. And, as my social environment within school became much better, I could lubricate the environment at university with a lot of alcohol, so that became much better. I spent lots of time in nature, in the bush, in Australia. And then all of a sudden coming to this point almost immediately where a lot of those things were removed during COVID, just exacerbated the symptoms that I had of anxiety from a very early life. So I was that first 2 years, I guess, of the COVID period, because we didn't really have a choice. I guess it was simply a matter of just push on. But for me, at that time, there were grey zones as well. So, and those grey zones couldn't be helped from a professional point of view. But I guess as soon as the COVID cloud started to lift, then came a point where I was like, okay, I've got to make a decision now. And it was almost like the urgency of, gee, those 2 or 3 years went by quick. How about and where have I got myself? And it was probably quite a bit of ego involved. Where have I got myself? And I thought, gee, I'm floundering a little bit here. Let's just put the accelerator down and see what happens. So it was interesting. It was as a result of my anxiety, I feel, that I ended up at Lake Hawea Station.
But as you were saying the other day, it might have been today, I'm just putting this blind down a little bit. See if we can sort of reduce that. Is that better than that?
That's fine, yeah.
It's interesting because it's all about how you channel that energy or that anxiety, isn't it? Because someone else, I can't just think who it was now, said a similar thing. It's about, it can be a superpower.
Yeah.
If maybe it was you, when we first got here, we were talking about it, it can actually be, a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of nervousness is sometimes the motivation or the drive.
I think it shows first that you care, and there's sincerity involved with anxiety, because there's, especially with a lot of uncontrollables as well. But for me, it was, and this has come with time, it's recognition that, hey, I've got an energy source, and that I feel very privileged and very lucky to have that energy. But it can be a little bit of a beast at times, and sometimes I don't channel it as I should. So I need to be, it's kind of the burden of having the privilege for me. That's the perspective I take now, that I have to just work daily to ensure that it's heading in the right direction. And sometimes that anxiety gives me a couple of reminders that I might just need to remaneuver where I'm heading.
Let's stay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to avoid because that's the gold.
Yeah.
But tell me about what's your anxiety management? I'm interested because you were speaking with Mads the other day about breathing.
Yeah. So the thing with my anxiety is mentally I feel, and this is again stoking up the ego, I feel I'm very mentally strong, but the messages sometimes, the 10% of messages from my brain that might conjure up worry or fear or panic or something like that, my body really holds on to. And then that manifests. And what happens is, during the day, I can push those aside, but come nighttime when I'm trying to sleep, when I let the guard down, then that's when a lot of those symptoms. So I have a lot of I've had a lot of panic attacks during the night time. So for me, the first step I took, I think, in kind of managing that was having something to look forward to immediately the next morning, which would make me feel better. So I knew that as soon as I got up in the morning, no matter how shit my sleep was or or how anxious I was feeling, because it's not great when you wake up feeling anxious, I knew immediately I could temper that down, actually feel better. And it's kind of like the textures of life, it's like the contrasts, and that's where real satisfaction came from me. So cold dips early morning, I say 11 minutes a week, but I'm very fortunate to live on the shores of beautiful Lake Hawea Station, so I'm generally in most mornings for 3 minutes.
I had a dip 1 or 2 mornings I was there, and it's pretty fucking cold.
Yeah, it's
in May. It was May.
Yeah.
Oh, hell.
Yeah, it's and it gets cooler with snowmelt come October. It probably gets down to 7 or 8 degrees. And this is a 350 metre deep lake, so it's got a lot of water, a lot of ability to hold on to heat. But yeah, it gets very cold late winter.
Yeah. So dips?
Yeah, so dips. And then after that, I make a decision. I'm like, okay, well, energy-wise, do I need something to eat, or can I kind of burn off these anxious feelings I've had overnight by simply having a fast up to lunchtime? So for me, it's kind of, and it's a simple message to my body to be like, one less thing to worry about, chill out. And it's a move for me that creates change from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. So I just make a simple decision. Do I eat before 12 o'clock or do I hold on? And that just, because it's really important for me during the day amongst the anxious ups and downs, that I remind myself that I can feel good. So, and I guess from a positive mindset, you can just bring yourself back to those moments. And even at the height of a really bad panic attack, you're like, oh, hang on, 6 hours ago, I was feeling so good. So that for me is that's really important, that fast, and just a reminder of feeling good too.
And I guess having the responsibility, and you said then the privilege, but of or knowing you can make a decision, I'm going to fast or not, depending on how I feel, is a positive management strategy, which in itself might make you feel more empowered and in control, because it's actually a point of reference every morning. How do I feel? I'm gonna manage it either way. I either fast or I eat.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like a check and balance in place.
Yeah.
Which in itself gives
a state of control.
State of control.
Yeah. So that takes me up to lunch generally, and then at lunchtime there's a little creek at Lake Hawea Station called Bushy Creek. It's a riparian strip, but I follow that creek at lunchtime generally most days. I follow that creek to the point where the water starts flowing. It flows underground at some stage. Sometimes I have to take a jog. The sound of trickling water for me in a natural environment where there's complexity, and I think that's the beauty of nature, is there's complex interactions that are happening that our brains crave. Like a lot of our environment now is homogenized. We live, say, between four walls. That prevents spontaneity from happening, and that prevents us also from seeing those beautiful moments of abundance in nature too. Like when you go out in nature into a complex environment where there's lots of interactions, for a nature child especially, and I speak from my perspective here, all of a sudden my perspective turns from, I want to feel good, to I have this around me. And that's really important too. So again, that's just another reminder, and it's another little ritual where I try and do daily, is just follow this creek system up to where water is and enjoy those moments.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It's come through trial and error because, yeah.
Do Jeff and Juzzy know that? They go, where's Richie?
The good thing is we don't have two-way radios. So yeah. I just say I'm off to, they're terrific. They give a sense of autonomy to their staff because, from their knowledge, they believe they have the right staff in place, and they're very task-focused people. So rather than giving a time frame necessarily, they're like, we want you to do this task, and then you have the option to do that in your creative time, and then you have space for yourself to look after your personal well-being too.
So that's cool. So Oh, no, starving. What's it called? Fasting.
Fasting. Yeah, what is like starving at the time?
It's a classic. You know, I saw a meme a while ago, and it said like back in our days, it was like we just skip breakfast, and but now it's called fasting.
Yeah, totally. And I have to be very careful. I don't want to get to the point where I'm depriving myself. It's not about that. It's more about making a conscious decision. Actually, do I have energy? Do I have mental energy right now? Do I have physical energy? Okay, I probably don't need to eat right now. Yeah, and then I make a decision somewhere around 12 o'clock and have something nice to look forward to as well.
And so for the listeners and viewers, Richie spent his first, was Tuesday after a long weekend here, and I presented him with like a 5,000 gram steak.
Yeah. Tuesday morning?
Tuesday morning.
Yeah, it was breakfast. It was
breakfast.
First cab off the rank. Yeah.
You're probably like going, I think I'll fast today.
Yeah.
And then turned up and then like, there's half a bullock on a plate.
My grandmother used to say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So sometimes you just don't question the process.
You're pushed on. And then there was bacon and there's sausages every other morning, eggs. But
the cheese exuding from my pores at the moment too, on the Charlie Arnott diet. It's been a revelation.
You're on your animal protein rich.
No, it's great.
All of it from here, except for the cheese. But having said that, Mads with her milking every morning, which is incredible in itself.
Yeah.
That's the next step.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That'll be the next one. So lunch, take you up to lunchtime. Yeah. Where do you do? You mentioned to Mads about breathing.
So I do some breath work throughout the day. I have a good friend, Josh, in New Zealand, who is a breathwork practitioner, and he's given.
Has he got a business?
Yeah, his is called 26 Wellness.
26 Wellness.
Yeah, so that's numerical 26 Wellness. Yep. Sorry, not numerical, it's in words, 26.
Oh, okay.
But he does a lot of integrative work with corporates as well, but he gave me a simple technique to...
Isn't it 2 sucks?
Yeah, 2 sucks. Yeah, well, I've got a twang now.
You've got an Australianised.
Readopt.
So you're not Australian or New Zealand.
I'm somewhere in the middle of the Tasman Sea.
You are.
Yeah.
You're bobbing around somewhere there.
Yeah.
I will take you.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 sucks wellness.
Yeah.
And
so a lot of his breath work is around stimulating the vagus nerve. So he has simple integrations throughout the day. It could just be 2 to 3 minutes, and it's having a longer exhale than your inhale, very similar to the box breathing approach. But it's just putting a little bit more emphasis on the exhale. And it's something that I find very beneficial because when I do a cold dip as well, the way I control my movements and because I try and be calm when I'm cold dipping is just lots of breathing out. I just breathe out. I don't even think about breathing in because to my knowledge, the lungs are a vacuum. So as soon as I stop breathing out, I'm going to refill. So if I concentrate on breathing out, that helps stimulate the vagus nerve. Again, just say that I'll be feeling anxious at some stage again.
Well, that's very Wim Hof, isn't it? The breathing where you breathe out more than you breathe in, kind of expel to a point, and then hold your breath for as long as.
Totally.
In that breathing exercise, and then obviously combining that with the ice bath.
Yeah, it's the whole biochemical. I guess there's so many different aspects that go into breath management, but that's the biochemical approach, is that balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide. I do some breathing called Buteyko breathing as well. Can't remember whether
spell that.
Buteyko.
Oh, hang on.
Buteyko. Buteyko breathing is about limiting your breaths, not necessarily respiration rate, but also the amount you breathe in. And the idea is to build up an air hunger, and the idea is to build a more efficient exchange of oxygen within your body, because we perceive carbon dioxide as a waste, or like general consensus is, carbon dioxide we breathe out as a waste gas. You actually need, upwards of about 5% carbon dioxide in your body. It's like the gatekeeper for oxygen to go into your cells. And if that carbon dioxide isn't there, you don't get effective respiration from your oxygen. So it's a matter of building up a slight air hunger to ensure that you get fully oxygenated by introducing a bit more carbon dioxide.
I hope this is still... I'm just going to re-sign in my computer. I suspect it's... Oh, there you go. It's still going.
Yeah.
Thank God for that.
Got a fright when I saw that on the screen.
Did you? Yeah, I hope... I'm sure it's still ticking over.
I know, I was talking about the 2 faces.
That's got really white. Look how pasty and white I am.
I wonder if we shift.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, good work, tech boy.
Yeah.
So tell me... Oh, I'm going worse here now. Tell me I don't know what's going on there. Tell me, breath work. That's a combination of management techniques.
Definitely. And I say in all this, I say that in the sense that I'm continuously, not continuously, but in a non-linear way, improving my way to manage anxiety and also live with it. And I don't know what the ultimate goal is, to never feel anxious again. I'm not sure. It's entirely human and almost normal to me now. And I'm saying this in the sense I do these things throughout the day because they are working for me and they're pushing me in a new direction. And I know because things in my external environment are definitely improving too, which is, I guess it's the way I look at it, is whatever I'm trying to manifest within myself, what's happening externally too.
Well, if your external, what am I trying to say here? Your external expression of yourself from an outsider's point of view, experiencing you in the world, you're doing a good job, I reckon, of like maintaining your calm and composure, because you don't strike me as, I haven't caught you having convulsions out the back yet, anything like that.
There was a bit of cheese at lunchtime yesterday.
So I haven't, so from an outsider's point of view, whatever you're doing seems to be working.
Yeah.
You're not like going, oh my God, I can't handle this, I've got to go and have a lie down for an hour.
Yeah.
Which would be fine too, but
And it's funny because in a sense I wish I could do that, because that would be a management technique as well. But the way that anxiety happens for me is I feel it in my body, but again, mentally I'm like, and it's probably almost that whole people facing kind of lifestyle I've had for the last 10 years, medic facing. You've got to be that moment of calm amongst whatever's happening around you, and you get really good at having a poker face too. And that's why I have to really habitually do these things, because I guess I'm not one to be like, when I probably should, I just need to go put the feet up and have a lie down. I choose to go and do something else, or keep myself busy or whatever. So it's just, having these habits in place.
Well, you pulled that quote out of the Stop Worrying and Start Living book there, lunchtime, about distraction and keeping in action. So that's a very male thing to do anyway. Not that females don't, of course, but I guess if you were to stereotype the sexes, then we tend to kind of just push on and keep doing things and get distracted, which I reckon has its benefits, but at the same time, thinking from a farmer, stress and then leading to suicide, kind of in the world of farming in Australia, there's a huge amount of suicide in the farming space. That at some point there has to be acknowledgement of needing help, because you can distract yourself to death pretty much, quite literally. Yeah. I'm not sure if you saw it. There was a great
almost numb yourself.
Yeah, well, there's a great ad, and I think I might have seen it earlier this year, late last year. Well, I think it was based in the States, and it was about men's mental health. And there's two guys sitting in watching the soccer, or might have been the rugby in the States.
I saw that ad.
And then one guy's like pumped, and the other guy's looking quite worried. And then there's a series of games, like 5-10 seconds of each, and you're going, oh, the bloke on the left's buggered. Yeah. And then in the last frame, the guy who was yahooing, he's not there anymore.
I know.
And there's often the guys who
I wasn't expecting that either.
No, that's why it's so powerful.
It's funny, I go, and so two other components of my like anxiety management is I ground quite a bit. So I head out into nature, and I as a male, I kind of need to lift things. So instead of going to the gym, I lift rocks. I just go somewhere and lift rocks and carry them. And I find that quite grounding for me because it slows me down. But the other key thing I do is I treat myself once a month or once every 3 weeks and go and get a massage, deep tissue massage. And for me, that's kind of brought into perspective that, okay, well, I get a physical body massage and, that makes me feel really, really good for a certain amount of time. Obviously, it's a Band-Aid to the cause, but it still gives you that space to feel good. The way I think about the mental component is, like, for me, talking and being open and being your authentic self at that very time, just whatever you're feeling, is for me like a mental massage. So for me, that just enables like my brain to let go of the notion that I can just be me at this time. Yeah, be me right now at this time. And ultimately, you want to get to that state, I feel, where you're just it's that whole discussion, is your best possible self. Is it just your most authentic self at that very time? You can get pretty deep on these things, but it's for me, like, having this anxiety has given me such a greater understanding of the world, because for me, I'm almost searching for a way out of it, but the search has taken me on this road that it's almost like the hard road, and it's given me a story, and it's given me these new experiences that I'm, just loving and very grateful for.
I mean, it's not an unusual story that through adversity, I mean, there's no growth stimulant like pain, and that's what's forced you, and you'll be a better man.
Yeah,
a better man for it.
Totally. It's funny. Just recently, my Reiki practitioner, because I've had a couple of sessions with her recently, and the first one, she went pretty soft on me in terms of because she's a counsellor as well. So in what we talked about afterwards, but the second time she just got a little bit fed up, and she's like, "Richie, you just got to get out of your own way. You just got to," and it was quite. It was really good advice for me to hear, because again, it probably comes back from the discussion we had earlier on. Intuitively, we've all done good things in our life, and we're here doing good things. Why do we need to think about it so much as well? And I guess that authentic self is being a more natural self. And if you're not feeling right at the time, it's, hey, just have a mental massage. That's my perspective. And, I've got a good tight group of mates who we openly talk. Sometimes we get fed up with each other and we're like, right now we shut up about this and we get on with it because we're so open and talking about these type of things, which is good. But we've got each other's backs too.
Well, it gets back to the the action. There's the action, men in action, kind of just keeps us, forging. And then I read something I get an email every day, the Daily Stoic, from Ryan Holiday, and this morning's one was interesting about talk versus deed or versus action, and it just speaks so much more and so loudly,
Yeah.
And you're putting those things into practice. Now, if we don't start talking about Lake Hawea, Jeff is going to flog you when you get home.
Yeah. There's always going to be an upsell when you work for Jeff and Justin, which is the fun of it.
So tell me, you started there. Your lunchtime, you sneak off up the creek.
Yeah, do a bit of grounding, lifting rocks, listen to the water, things like that.
And so when you're actually working, tell me and tell us about Lake Hawea Station. Just a bit of backstory. I'd been following you guys for a while, and then, bloody hell, what was it? It was like, this is really interesting what these guys are doing. And I'm not sure if Michelle did a message on Instagram or an email. Might have been an email. And then someone replied. Anyway, before I knew it, I was going to New Zealand anyway for a biodynamics conference over there, and you guys kindly put me up for 2 nights. I interviewed Jeff. We had a feed. The boys had a feed on the first night.
Beautiful lake house.
Yes, it was so good. And then Jeff and Juzzy took me for a feed somewhere. I can't remember quite where. The next night, nonetheless. And you took me for a trip up 1,000 metres up into the high country, which is phenomenal. And so that's how I got to meet you and kind of get to know Jeff and Juzzy and the whole. In a short period of time, you guys are so good at kind of imparting information and demonstrating and so on.
We're lucky with the environment. It facilitates that for us there too. Yeah. People come open-minded because they're immediately in awe from what they see around them. So we try and come from that strengths-based perspective.
So tell us about what do you guys do there? Why? What's the paint a picture for people who haven't already jumped on Instagram.
Yeah, so a little plug here, Lake Hawea Station Living on Instagram. But we are a 7,000 hectare high country station in the bottom end of the South Island, a little township called Hawea, which is just out of Wanaka over the hill from Queenstown. And this high country station involves both low country, so that's glacial formed country, so that's very fertile. There's a lake there that was formed by a moving glacier, and when that glacier retreated and the river flowed, left behind very alluvial soil. So we have some more intensive pastures down low. Then we have the front country, and that's the front country is the entrance to the high country. So there'd be approximately 1,000 hectares of low and front country, and then we have about, I think, 5,500 hectares out the back in the high country, and that's your quintessential, iconic, sort of semi-alpine golden tussock, otago landscapes that we often see, representative of wines and tourism in the region.
Which we went to see in the buggy on that treacherous climb up the hill there. It was a bit nail-biting.
Yeah.
And what an amazing combination or variation in consequences of implications of implications of that. There's the richness of the agritourism experience. And what's your role there?
Yeah, so my role, and so before I get into my role, I should say that we farm approximately 300 head of Black Angus cattle and approximately 10,000 merino sheep too. So it comes from a primary focus of merino fibre with some meat, but the animals spend their life amongst all three of those environmental mediums, the high country, front country, and low country. So we do farm the entire system, which is makes it a lot of fun. But my role there, initially I started, once I'd sort of moved through my probation period of mowing lawns.
Lawn boy.
And not breaking stuff and working out how to fix stuff. I moved into the position of experiences manager. So the kind of 5 flagship experiences we have there involve high country trips involving ATV vehicles. We have astronomy experiences, regenerative farm tours. We have beautiful hikes into remnant forests, and we have a children's program too. So that was my initial focus, is getting, the tourism offerings that tell the story about the station off the ground. And so it's effectively been a startup.
Startup. And you started there
End of 2022. I think it was around October.
So let's say it's 18 months.
Yeah.
So the guts of the agritourism and you facilitating that really started 18 months ago.
So 18 months ago. So we had...
Because it was more like farming, a bit more hardcore farming. We've got sheep, we've got cattle, we've got to manage them, and we do some grazing management, but it's all farm related. So you sort of...
And opportunities had come to the station from other sectors in that time, but I think the real impetus was... Grace and Jussie had applied to Condé Nast, and Condé Nast Traveller for American Travellers is a magazine that's probably one of the best representations of where you should travel for that particular year. And they got wind of Lake Hawea Station, and they were going to come down for a visit. They were visiting some other properties. This was at the end of 2022, and we thought, cool, they'll come and visit. We'll get a wee snippet in the April edition of the 2023 Condé Nast Traveller, and it turns out they liked the property that much that they made us the feature piece and named us in their gold list, and also one of 4 properties worldwide in the sustainability category. So with that came an impetus. We're like, okay, we need to start building some tourism experiences.
You had to walk the talk now.
Yeah, and formalities as well. So there was a heightened sense of urgency. But it came just at the right time.
And you came just at the right time too, by the sounds of it.
I think so. Yeah, it's.
Well, you're still there. You haven't got the sack.
Yeah.
As much as my suggestions must have been ignored.
There might not be a job when I go back. You might be sending testimonials back.
Well, actually, Jeff and Juzzy said, look, if he wants to stay, that's actually for the best. Just keep him here. Keep him here. More. Continue.
Yeah, so, and that set us to those kind of 5 flagship experiences. But then we worked with a lovely lady called Lauren Roxburgh, who was formerly American, US based. She's from California, but she is a global expert in fascia, so the connective tissue that moves through our body and it's responsible for a lot of fluid retention, but also covering the muscles. And there's a lot of evidence now to suggest that it's involved with holding of emotions and trauma within the body too. So she was just doing a little bit of work with us in the sense that she was promoting what we do at Lake Hawea Station, but also she was using the residences for her photo shoots and personal advertising. And then Jussie, being the rocket ship of ideas she has, thought, right, we'll move into wellness now. So it was literally the next day in the following week, it's pretty quick fire. There was an Instagram story, and it was advertising low, and this is on the Lake Hawea Station page, advertising low, what she's doing at Lake Hawea Station residence. And there in the bottom right was a little inscription, and feel free to contact Wellness Director Richie Laming on our new wellness offering. So being the Virgo I am, as I've been told, Virgos are problem solvers. I was like, okay, well, we just got to commit to this. So now we're building what has become a globally renowned wellness experience at Lake Hawea Station, which is looking at both human health, but also basically how that governs the soil, the plants, the animals, and the ecosystem health around us. So almost looking at it from a human perspective, but realizing that it's from a bottom up. We say in farming, it's like the body keeps the score, and stress, the soil keeps the score. If you get the soil regulating itself, then those good things tend to follow. So that's our wellness approach now, is we're involving humans in the entire system of farming. And it seems quite paradoxical, but we think there's a direct alignment between wellness of humans and wellness of farm systems, given that farm systems in New Zealand occupy farm and horticulture about 50% of our landscape as well.
I mean, to me, it's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you can look at the gut flora, human gut flora and the soil flora, and there's many similarities. Our source of our nutrition is the soil. There's so many crossovers, and obviously the food, you can't grow nutritious food in a wounded landscape. It's got to be health. It's got to be healthy to then make the humans healthy. So it makes so much sense that it is similar principles and similar values. One's in environment and one's obviously the human, but it really is so much of the same stuff. And,
totally.
And yeah,
I guess we speak from the perspective of having been raised on the land, and I guess what Lake Hawea Station effectively does was number one is it broadens the interpretation of high country landscapes. Like, they're always going to be farms. That's the beautiful cultural thing as well about these properties is they're farms and they're iconic, but we're trying to diversify what these landscapes can represent too, and we think that's wellness. And also we want to link the growers with the consumers. So, we want to provide those connections, and that this is involved with events on the property too, where those consumers from other parts of the world can actually be linked with the growers at grassroots level as well. So I guess that's the angle we're coming from, given that I work for, expert marketers too. They're looking at it both from a growers and a marketer's perspective.
Being Juzzy and
Jussie and Jeff.
Yeah, who are this? We didn't make that clear. Are the owners and principals and the drivers,
business directors and strategists. Yeah.
If you want to know more about Jeff, then I can't remember the episode, but it was in season. It was about this time last year. Yeah, season 7 it would have been. Fascinating story. And so, what's the future look like there? You've got a. Did you mention the deck? You did mention the dick.
Yeah.
You didn't say dick.
I wasn't jumping up on the deck though.
Jump on the dick.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that before, didn't you? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So and that I don't know if you really went into the stargazing part of that, because you're one of your interests is, isn't it interesting that for people to get grounded, sometimes they've got to look to the heavens.
It's almost to make themselves again. That I often find feeling grounded and feeling humbled for me is quite synonymous. They're two words that almost represent the same feeling for me. But allowing people to feel small, and we have to remember that. I guess in lives we can compartmentalise things, and for those living busy corporate lives who have families to feed, who are focused on their children, focused on these things in urban landscapes, they just might have forgotten to look up at the sky every now and again. And that's often what we find is the reaction they get when they come and do these astronomy experiences, and it's something in their brain that's always there, but we're just facilitating a reminder of it, and we often get that exact comment. New Zealand skies as well is so beautiful, silhouetted by the mountains, that they just feel so small. But they're saying it from a really good perspective.
What you mentioned the other day, is it dark skies, black skies?
Yeah. So Dark Sky Reserve, that's up at Takapo. There's a lot of discussion in New Zealand. I think another tier of sort of dark sky conservancy is a dark sky sanctuary, and there's even discussions one year or lobbies to potentially explore New Zealand as a dark sky nation.
What does that actually mean?
It'd be particular, I'd say, average light level emissions, but also clarity of night sky, population density, all these different variables would go in, but also access to that night sky. I can say from experience, and did you get the aurora over here? A couple we had the.
I wasn't looking for it.
Yeah, we had the. A lot of people might have seen this who are listening, but we had the aurora australis, and I could say it was one thing. For someone who has got used to the night sky now and exploring it, that immediately made me feel very, very small, and it just opened up new pathways in my brain immediately.
What did you say before? You I can't remember how you framed it up. You want to make people feel small, or what was that you said?
Humbled, I think, or grounded. Yeah. So
perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a shift in perspective, I think, and it's almost an invitation to be made to feel small. I find with the night sky, because there's that famous quote about, ultimately we're all made up of stardust. So it's not like we're being made to feel small. We're just being made to feel like we're part of something much bigger. I think if you switch that sort of paradigm and people realize, there's way more than just my life just here. There's all this going on out there in a very organic way. And I think that's the thing and the reaction I really appreciate about doing astronomy experiences.
Guess what? I'm looking at the time.
Yeah,
farm tour in 25 minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to not stop here. We're going to stop, but this is not the end. Let's make sure we clock. I want to know about the future a bit more. You had some plans for the high country when I was there. So 12 months ago, you had a few little things we can talk about. I want to talk about carbon.
Yep.
And the wool and animal welfare.
Yep.
And some of the other practices.
Cool.
Can we do that?
Yeah, we can.
Or do we need to phone in Jack, Lifeline? You got it pretty covered though.
I think I've got it mostly covered. Yeah.
Jack, the farm manager.
Yeah, no, Jack.
He's in a different time frame. He'll be asleep by now.
Yeah, he'll be at the pub, I reckon.
Rightio then, Richie. We'll just sign off here and we'll have to go again later.
Sounds good.
So let's. So day one complete. Day two today. We're yet to get to because it's early in the morning. What thoughts so far?
I just liked, because I'm quite philosophical, the opening 3 hours blew my mind. And then in the afternoon, I had to remap it again. So I almost had to reform my brain through the physical application of creating those two preparations. And it was great because that was really integrative as well. And it's, for those who are listening, I guess I can't really talk in detail what happens in the biodynamics workshop because most of it just goes through one ear and then is in one part of your brain that just comes back later on. So for me to describe it now, it's quite difficult. It's more of a feeling, I think, and an intuition rather than, I guess, a description for me. But yeah, loved it. Loved learning. I think the concept that stuck to me most was the fact that humans are the channel between the measurable and the unmeasurable. So we're starting a wellness campaign or a wellness program at Lake Hawea Station that has jumped ahead quite remarkably, and we're now gathering a global audience. But we talk a lot about humans having this position where we can either positively or negatively affect the environment around us. So it really is poignant and it runs parallels with the concept of biodynamics too. So yeah, for that reason, I was enjoying it yesterday.
Well, certainly biodynamics is about wellness. It's wellness of self, wellness of animals, wellness of soil, wellness of environment generally, and landscape and ecology. So, and it is all in parallel, isn't it? Is human health, and if we're not healthy, we can't look after steward the landscape very well. And there's not many people who come to our workshops who finish that first morning at lunch and go, yep, I've got it all. Yeah. I'm so across it all. I'm ready to, it does take a while to absorb and things sort of fall to place later or once the practice is understood and done.
Another idea that stuck with me was when Hamish was saying that as of 330 AD, the earth is dying. So it's past its halfway point in its life. And then he's talked about now, it was almost as children caring for their parents. And I love that too, because it almost, sometimes you think, am I overthinking? Do we just need to live and just enjoy it? But it almost gives you permission to be like, actually, we can look after this planet around us and we can do a really good job at it also.
It's because up to that point, nature and the world, the earth was looking after us, our species, and so on. And we weren't necessarily the best children, the best students of that care. And you're right. Now it's really up to us. And because that question was yesterday, why if the biodynamics helps link plants to their organs in the cosmos, then why do we have to do it? And Hamish's response was pretty much that, wasn't it? At the stage of the Earth's life, it is our turn to help reconnect because we're nurturing nature. We're
almost that key that's going to unlock that next. I don't know, dimension of nature or dimension of natural consciousness, if that's a term.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Let's get to, so that's good. We've got day two today, so we're going to do some theory back in town. and then we'll come back out and do some more of the practice, more of the sort of this next stage. So yesterday we built compost heap. We put a carbon manure concentrate pit in the ground. We used the biodynamic compost preparations, the practical application of them, and today is sort of the next step, as if that is all now made and complete and finished, and then we learn about spraying those preparations out on the landscape with a bit of gear, simply with a bucket and a stick and a brush, and then also a bit more mechanical with a spray, very simple spray rig that we have. And if I can find that fox, that either the fox you saw, the fox I saw, the dead ones, we'll do a pepper.
I'm excited. It's either that or have to be a kiwi, I reckon.
No, we better keep you for a little. No, we can't. We can't send you home in a box, in a jar as ash.
I'm already going home in a capsule. So,
so look, because if we don't do the fox, we can do. I know I've got rats in the freezer. I've got a snake, but I might save that snake till the spring. Brown snake. Yeah, so rats or mice is the other thing. I don't know. I might have a rabbit actually in there, which would be probably quite pertinent, given there's a few rabbits under the shed up there. We saw them last night on our return home from the rub-a-dub-dub. So, Lake Hawea, carbon. Let's go there.
Yeah, let's do it.
So you're not the farm manager. Jack's the farm manager, but you are certainly across the, sort of the focus on carbon and soil.
Yes.
There and the I often get it wrong. It's climate positive and carbon neutral or negative.
There's a little bit of ambiguity around the terminology, and I have to make a mention to Finn Ross here, because he's the resident climate scientist for Lake Hawea Station, the son of Jeff and Jussie, who own the station, and Finn's a go-getter to say the very least, but he's currently finishing a PhD in climate science investigating the uses of seaweed at Deakin University at the moment. So some very exciting things happening in his life, but he was responsible for leading the charge in measuring the carbon sequestration and emissions on Lake Hawea Station. And
an audit.
Yeah, an audit. So to put it very concisely, in 2019, we had our measurements taken on the station. We sequester 5,000 tonnes of equivalent CO2 equivalent emissions and emit 2,500. So that makes us 2 times in the clear. And so at that very time, we had that measurement audited by a couple of companies. So with the help of Carbon Crop and Carbon Canary, Carbon Crop did the measurements. So they use artificial intelligence and satellite imagery, and then ground truth. So that's very important. They incorporate both technology and humans to actually measure how much the rangeland is sequestering. Then we have those numbers audited by Carbon Canary, and following that audit, that was where we were settled on that figure of 2 times or 2 times carbon positive. That was verified by a government agency called Toitu EnviroCare, and at that very time they didn't have an official climate positive status. They only had carbon neutral, so we attained our carbon neutral certification. Finn, like I say, being the go-getter he is, one of his companies, Climate Action Company, actually has a climate positive status. So we are currently going through that accreditation to become climate positive.
So essentially you're sequestering twice as much carbon as you are emitting as a business, as a farm?
At the very least, because currently we are measuring, through our sequestration, we are measuring the trees we plant, which is approximately 5,000 per year. We've planted about 22,000 trees. And also the reforesting land, so the land that we're naturally let go. That could be marginal land along riparian zones, up on hillsides, just anywhere where I guess stock can't get to, deer can't get to, where they're less palatable species, colonising species like Caprosma matagari, Carnuka. In time, they'll create habitat for some of those more fragile species like kowhai, cabbage tree that we have in New Zealand that produce beautiful nectar for birds as well.
And carbon, there's a fair bit of carbon in wool.
Yeah. So I get that question asked quite a lot from guests, and at this very time, I don't think we haven't made an exact. Well, I'm not sure what technology is out there at this time to ascertain what kind of carbon is collected via wool. We also don't measure the soil sequestration and also the tussock in the high country, what that is sequestering as well, because there's an enormous amount of cover and other components of our farm. We've got small probes on the property that measure gas flux. So these are only measuring a small area. So I think it's approximately 100, or I think it's between 50 and 100 hectares. And they're measuring gas flux. So your typical greenhouse gases, nitric oxide, methane, water vapor, carbon dioxide. So it's sort of getting a measurement of what the soil is doing, but we don't have a way at the stage of doing it on scale, because there was quite a pertinent fact that came via the movie Kiss the Ground, that soil potentially is the second largest carbon sink in the world, one being the ocean and three being the rainforest.
Was it, in that case, it's a reasonably untapped sink or, excuse me, opportunity to measure that sequestration, which would significantly add to your current record, I imagine.
Our goal, and it's, again, I guess it's, we're all quite entrepreneurial at the station, so these goals are always reformed, but our current goal is 10 times in the clear. So we're currently 2 times. We'd love to sequester, or be able to measure the fact that we can sequester 10 times more carbon than we are currently emitting.
You've got a fair bit of country, that sort of alluvial country there. That's rich soil. I mean, it might have a pretty high carbon level anyway, or soil organic matter, but measuring it is reasonably easy.
Yeah, so we use a company called Verdi, and they have taken VERDI. They have taken initial soil measurements of our alluvial land, and they're the ones that are covered with our mixed species pastures. So, we can have between 10 to 15 different species of plant on these soils. And the whole idea, I guess, with the regenerative pastures is to bolster that carbon cycle, to pull more carbon into the ground. The ground in time, it can hold on to that and via the biology within the soil. And so that's exciting, but we don't at this stage, and I sort of channel Finn here, we've got the baseline, but we're not in a position to say what those levels are doing just yet. And so that's an exciting prospect for the future, is actually being on that step towards what is the soil sequestering.
And in terms of practices there, you're doing grazing, grazing, time-controlled grazing, managed grazing, multi-adaptive paddock grazing. It's a new one. It's a new one. And so that would be one of the main practices or methods for sequestering carbon, and it's mainly sheep. Yeah,
mainly 10,000 head of sheep, and then about 300 head of Black Angus cattle. It's quite interesting with the whole regenerative movement, and I didn't have too much to do with it prior to working at Lake Hawea Station, but the science made sense to me. It's super unique and applicable to your property, and you kind of have to work out how to adapt, that all these things that fall under the umbrella of regenerative farming to your property. And I guess that's why there's such a need in the world to collaborate on these things, because all these properties do different things really well. And they create, an education point that lots of different farms can learn from and also practice in time. So what Jack will generally do, because it gets so cold during the winter there, and we're surrounded by lakes, so we have this inversion layer that forms, and basically what happens is water holds on to a lot more heat than the desertified land in the high country. The land cools down very quickly when it snows. Cool air sinks into the valley, but then you've got this warm layer of air that's released by the lakes that sits on top. So you have this layer of low cloud that can sometimes, only sit 100 to 200 feet above where you're standing, and it traps the cool air below it. It's a temperature inversion. And for the month of June, generally it doesn't sit above 3 or 4 degrees Celsius. Sometimes you won't see the sun, and the humans get depressed.
That's why you're
the animals get. Yeah, that's why I'm over here exactly at this time. Yeah, nothing to do with actually Hanamina. I just wanted to see the sun.
I just got to get out of
here. It's an interesting weather phenomenon that's factored in year on year, and so for that reason, the bulk of our sort of winter, also rotational grazing, actually happens during the winter. Jack will bolster the feed during our key growing periods of autumn. We seed in spring, and then come winter, when the stock needs some of that additional nutritious rich feed, that's when we actually, via break feeding, we graze through these regenerative pastures.
And when I was over there in May last year, I reckon there are ducks out there. See those?
Do you reckon they're foreigners?
No, yeah, I can't remember.
Oh, you mean the ones just out of your coop?
The fancy black
Yeah.
and greens.
I don't think they are. They look like Pacific black ducks to me.
Yeah? But these ones, so you know the ones in the coop, though? You saw them?
But are they black, though?
Yeah, they're black.
Yeah,
They're black.
So these ones are similar to our grey ducks in New Zealand, I think. So these are actually grey in colour.
Which ones?
These ones out in the dam.
You can see them?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They just look bigger than the normal wood duck. There's a wood duck down there. And then there's these black chappies. I reckon that's them, and I hope they're all anyway. That's good. So I hope we'll have to do a head count and make sure the foxes didn't get them last night. It was their first night out of the prison.
Yeah, seeing those ducks out there reminds me. It's funny. Dad and I were observing ducklings on a farm on a pond growing up. Day by day, the ducklings would just disappear, and we were trying to find out why. Monster eels living in the dam.
No way.
Yeah, so they're just coming up from below and just plucking them.
Like Jaws.
Like Jaws.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Just a
megalodon,
slower version of Jaws. Slower, slimier version.
No, that's them. That's
cool.
Right. They're
that's
loving
exciting.
them flapping around there. I wonder where they spent the night though. Not in their coop by the look of that, because that's not open yet. So tell me, when I was over there in May, you and I, and I'm not sure if Jack was there, and Jeff had a look at were you there when we looked at the compost heap?
I wasn't there.
No, but maybe Jack was.
You may be.
Yeah. Well, at least Jeff, and we went to a compost heap, and there was a lot of timber that you guys had had cleaned up. Mm-hmm. You were wondering whether you should chip it, what to do. Some of it was quite sort of broken up and splintery anyway, and there were a few other piles of things, and I just suggested that to put some biodynamic preps in it. Well, actually, don't save your money on the chipping of it all, and that it was a soft timber. I remember that. It wasn't like a hardwood, and mix it all up in with whatever you had there. You had old hay, you had maybe some bag silage or something.
Some grape merch as well. Some grape merch. Some like.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was almost alcoholic in smell when you were down there. It was quite potent.
I did black out at one stage.
Unrelated though.
And I said, just mix it all together and don't worry about chipping and pissing around, and put some biodynamic preps in there. And apparently that's what you guys did. Yeah. And I'm not sure, we'll have to confirm what preps you actually put in there. Yeah. And you said the result was pretty good.
We got the sample, so we also added clover seeds as well to fix nitrogen.
Oh, because that's right, because I might have suggested that once you do the thing, plant it with clover, because it makes a lovely blanket, and then we'll put nitrogen in. Yeah.
So anyway, we had a plan just to kind of do it our own way, but we thought, like, in terms of spreading it on the pastures, but we thought we'd just get it tested just out of interest in terms of what it contains, and it turns out the preparation was absolutely nuclear, and we got direct orders from the lab we sent it to just to stop. They want to have a closer look at this.
How long ago was this?
This was about a month ago.
Yeah, right. So it sat there for a while.
It sat there.
With a static pile. That's what you kind of.
Yeah, it would have sat there probably for at least 10 months, maybe 9 to 10 months.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, that's...
So they said, stop, don't put that weapon down.
Yeah, pretty much. That's super exciting. And the best analogy I've kind of been given is almost like a SCOBY culture in kombucha, where this stuff is so full of biology, and you just want to... the idea is to place it out amongst your pastures, and it's going to grow and feed, isn't it? And is it amoeba? So these organisms consume 500 times their body weight per day. They are... Some of these bacteria that are all this biology that's growing in these preparations have a voracious appetite.
So that's interesting, isn't it? So my thoughts around that would be, if it's that powerful, you would still the easiest way to do that. So you want to keep some of it somewhere. You don't want to use it all up. No, you could spread it by. So that stuff that you keep, you would inoculate other piles with, and you probably keep a fair bit of it too, because it sits there for a while. It's going to be fine. Like, it's going to keep on breaking down. The goodness will remain, and then the other stuff you could, as I was going to learn this afternoon, mix it with water, and you might put some worm wee in there or some other liquids, and spray that on your pasture at a very low rate. And we'll talk about the rates up here, because they still kind of would apply. And if you spread it as a solid, you would just tone your application rates down.
Yeah.
But that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think
How many tons have you got, do you reckon?
Geez, it was a big pile.
It was a lot of wood there.
Yeah,
There was a lot of
what would it be? 10 tons?
Oh shit, no! I reckon you have. I don't know. I would. I'd hate to. There'd be tens and tens and tens of tons.
Yeah. Probably up
reckon.
towards 50 tons or so.
Oh, there's a lot there. Now, a normal application of compost would be, say, a ton to the hectare. That'd be kind of like a pretty standard kind of thing. But you may not need that. And then, we sort of always say that a physical application of compost will last a few years in terms of its continuing impact and kind of so on.
Yeah.
A liquid application would last six months to a year kind of thing. So the solids will kind of keep going a bit more. But you guys have worked that out.
But it's definitely pricked our ears up, because we're so new to the biodynamics thing. And I guess now having that result and me over here doing the workshop means that we can just start to scale up. And I think that's, and especially with there's so much information out there now regarding, regenerative farming movements and like where do we start? I guess sometimes it was like Hamish was saying yesterday, you just start, you just do. It might just be a little thing, it might just be a stepping stone, but you can scale it up and you can always change track as well
and find your way through it. When I was there last year, I went to the Biodynamic Association of New Zealand. Awesome group of people. So that's somewhere to get preps from. Because I don't think if we came over and did something with you guys, I don't know we'd be able to bring anything with us. I don't know what the quarantine thing is in New Zealand.
I'd say it's stricter than coming back to Australia.
Yeah, it would be, but then it would probably make more sense to get your, get the Kiwi preps from over there. You get them. We just, we'll work that out.
Yeah.
Now let's get on to animal welfare because I know it was a little controversial some years ago. Jeff told me about it. There was a show. Probably like the equivalent of Landline we have here in Australia, where
Country Calendar. It's an institution at 7:00 every night on Sunday. I think it's New Zealand's longest continuing television show. I think it's been operating since the 60s.
And Jeff was on that some years ago and caused a stir because wasn't the story about their animal welfare kind of practices, which sort of didn't shine a light, but it certainly made other farmers a bit more uncomfortable, or they got up in arms a bit. A few of them, didn't they?
So we on Lake Hawea Station, the farm has 4 kind of cornerstones we rotate around. So animal welfare being one, carbon being another, biodiversity enhancement, and then regenerative pastures. I haven't repeated any of those, have I? Regen pastures, carbon, biodiversity, and animal welfare.
That's it.
So a wee thing, I guess, about this episode of Country Calendar, we tried to incorporate, and I wasn't here at this time, so the station itself tried to incorporate each of those 4 cornerstones into the farm's productivity and profitability, enhanced stocking rates, things like that. But then at the end of the day, we didn't have control over the finished product. And television being television, usually you put in a bit of juicy content to grasp more viewers. And it just so happens that content was focused on the animal welfare cornerstone. So at that time, the station had developed a sharing metric. So the sharing metric was non-numerical. So rather than a sharer being paid per animal for the day, so they could wake up in the morning and be like, we're paid $3 an animal, let's share 300 sheep, we might earn $1,000. The paradigm was shifted to look at the sharing experience from an animal's point of view, given that the animal's stress response is in control of the wool quality, and also probably the welfare of the human handling the sheep too. If the human's fighting the sheep all day, it's significant stress on the posterior chain of a human already leaning over, sharing their hamstrings and their back. And we felt as a station that we could change the paradigm of sharing. And also we're looking at, try not to complicate it here, not just looking at the practice of sharing, but the entire supply chain too. So when we developed the sharing metric, we developed 5 key criteria. It was a qualitative model, so it was a behavioural measurement, that was measured, was developed by the station, measured by Kevin, the head shearer, and Jack, the farm manager. And they were looking at things like the behaviour of the animals in the pen, behaviour of the animals on the board, whether there was any physical signs like bleeding, cuts, scarring, things like that during the shearing process, the calmness of the animal leaving the shed, the calmness of the shearer during that time, the overall experience for the animal. So it was just, it was more just initially a flip of the model and looking at it from a sheep's point of view, in the knowledge that the station at that time was listening to their consumers, and they had identified that there was an education gap. There were people overseas who were receiving New Zealand wool who thought that sheep at that time might be harmed during the process. There were even some, believe it or not, that thought the sheep could be slaughtered during that process too.
Has to be murdered.
Has to be murdered. So yeah. So
it's only pretty terminal kind of
exercise.
One harvest of wool.
Yeah. You wouldn't call that regenerative.
No, but fair enough though. That's the results were. Yeah.
So that was the key incentive, is we were under full understanding that we could incorporate our story as a station, carbon positive, this animal welfare cornerstone, all these other accreditations we'd accrued, and we could create a more premium product on the other side of the world by letting our consumers know our story. And that was via talking directly to clients. And that we felt filled that education gap where, and we felt filled that idea that, hey, farms can be world leaders in animal husbandry. During the shearing process, the animal doesn't have to be harmed. The animal can actually have a pretty good experience. So that was our belief. And I guess, we've had discussions, and I've talked to quite a few people, and again, I wasn't there at the time. It's probably what ruffled feathers, I would imagine, amongst, the local farming community or domestic farming community, was, as marketers, you have to stick your head out. You have to be like, hey, this is what we're doing, and this is we're doing it for these reasons as well. And it was almost like that country calendar episode, because other farms weren't doing what we were doing, other farms could be perceived as, you're not doing enough.
Yeah,
and
you guys are right, they're wrong. Yeah,
exactly,
creating a bit of a divide.
And that wasn't our intention at all. I guess the mindset at Lake Hawea Station is that growth mindset, and that comes with that criticism, and we're in fully understanding of it. But that was the intention. But I guess, with the power of social media, power of communication these days, everyone throws in their 2 cents worth, and particular comments can gain traction and things like that. But talking to Jeff and Jussie, I guess, in time now, as the dust has settled, there's a deeper understanding, as we're getting more people to visit the station now, a deeper understanding of that sharing concept, and animal welfare cornerstone is being developed.
Well, I guess also, it's those times when that are challenging and there's some conflict or upset or disturbance that one may not have expected. It does give one the opportunity as a business and individuals to go just to reflect on it. And I'm not saying those guys, you guys did anything wrong. I'm sure because of that, the impact or the kick, the pushback or whatever it was, you guys are now doing a better job of communicating and telling the story, and over time will actually turn enemies into friends, because you kind of, in your graciousness and reverence for the farming community, kind of create stronger collaborations in the future.
Totally. It's almost like you have to be sold to the idea, don't you? And we're talking about this, objectively looking at something, and the idea here we believe is more powerful than the criticism, the idea that we can look after sheep better, and what we're doing today, we can potentially do better tomorrow, and that makes farming a really exciting thing, and again, an industry and a landscape that has enormous growth as well. And there's lots of aspects that I love about farming that I could just happily keep as they are. But I think that's the environment we have at Lake Hawea Station, is we're all committed to growing as individuals in our personal lives, but also within the farming industry as well.
And you're raising the bar. You guys are raising the bar for now wellness. That's kind of the next thing. For agritourism, for animal welfare, for carbon farming, sequestration and climate positive kind of stuff. And that really should be celebrated and embraced, I imagine, because if everyone's if everyone can agree on, we can do a better job. I mean, no one anywhere is a perfect farmer, except maybe Joel Sullivan.
Gold standard there.
Gold standard.
Yeah.
And maybe Will Harris for his grazing.
You did have a dream about him last night.
I had a dream about Will. He wasn't in it. He wasn't in it. But members of his family or his staff who I've never met, have never been there before, were certainly in it. And it was interesting. I can't remember all the detail. It was all above board, I have to say. It was really cool. They were helping me fix something or creating something there, but it was cool. I was a bit confused as to why Will wasn't there helping us, but he was probably moving.
Just don't question the process sometimes.
So we get into that. Yeah. Oh yeah. So but if we can all agree on we can do a better job, and the best way to do that is to share our experiences and avoid making the mistakes of others by sharing and acknowledging and just being generous with our experiences.
Yeah.
Then that is a positive for everyone. Everyone can be drawn along. If people don't want to go on that journey, that's fine too. Like, get off the bus and don't throw rocks at the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Go on your own bus. That's fine. Like, you go on your own journey, and that's absolutely and that's the way things should be. Everyone shouldn't be on the same bus. It's one of those great quotes. Like, if everyone's saying the same thing, it's time to change it. If everyone's doing the same thing, then actually it's time to start doing something else. Because it's like, no, there has to be the biodiversity or the diversity of thought and practice and principles and so on. I think we should wrap it up there. We've got about 40 minutes to get into town.
Cool. On that, I thought I'd say on that note, I reckon there's space but at least between New Zealand and Australia to begin for like a regenerative network. Like, I've worked for luxury lodges between New Zealand and Australia, and there's networks of luxury lodges that collaborate on bookings and experiences, and now regenerative farming properties are moving down this route of agritourism, consultancy, research, university inclusion, all these things. There's even more potential to collaborate and share this knowledge because, like, for example, we might at Lake Hawea Station specialise in carbon or animal welfare. Here at Hanamino, you've got natural sequence farming, biodynamics. There's lots of knowledge that can be shared to enhance your own farm system. So that's something that I'd love to be involved with.
Well, we're talking about that in little bits here and there, so we'll continue those conversations. In the spirit of the Anzacs, I think that would be a lovely thing. Not taking the piss at all, by the way. I'm just saying that we all were on side and pally at the times when people had to pull together, New Zealand and Australia, and I think there's a really good reason for that. And you got to come back. I'm going to go back over there to Lake Hawea.
We're going to get a biodynamics workshop.
I think that'd be awesome. When I was there that time and we were talking compost and everything, it was like, this is a no-brainer in terms of what you have there, the opportunity, the business and Juzzy and Jeffs and the team, Jack and yourself and everyone there, their willingness to embrace new ideas. And you've got a really good association over there to support that as well. They're awesome, the BD Association of New Zealand. So we will talk further. We have to get to town. We have to do a quick Q&A before that, though. Richie, that was awesome. Three sets, 3 parts, 3 takes.
3 tangents.
3 tangents. Well, no, about 1,000 tangents. It's been a joy, a pleasure and honour. And we'll have a 1-minute break and then we'll get into the Q&A, which is actually, you reckon it's been tough. You reckon this is
right. I'm going to come under scrutiny.
Q&A. Oh, this is it. You're going to be a blood. I'll really get some tissues because you'll be blood.
Be a mess.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love your support by subscribing, rating and reviewing The Regenerative Journey on your favourite podcast platform. You help us reach more people and keep the show thriving for seasons to come. Each time you listen, you're choosing to make a positive shift in your own world. And if an episode speaks to you, please pass it on to friends, family or communities who might be inspired too. For more details and episodes, visit www.charliearnott.com.au.